some more bass. Yeah, make the voice sound a little bit. No, it's not it. 1, 2, 3, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Yeah, are we okay? How many of you cannot hear me? Please.
Good afternoon. And thank you for your bravery to come back on the third day.
各位午安，我们非常的感谢各位能够回来参加我们的第3天的课程。
Where's the? Can I have the clicker?
哦，对不起，那个，I think the okay. You know, over there, he couldn't see.
Can I have the first slides, please?
想说请看到这个。
Well, before he finds the slides for me, now every one of you have one piece of white envelopes, correct?
那么呢，就是在我们要开始之前，想确定一下，说每一位这个先生女士都有一封这个白色的信封，对吧？
And the white envelope should have your name and your number. Double check the names and the number. Make sure you don't get someone else's paperwork.
那么就说是每一个信封里面呢，那个都是应该是您自己的名字，还有您的号码，因为那里头有这个您的验血的报告。就they blood result something.
Yeah. That is your blood results and your biometric measurement.
因为那个信封里面呢，希望您不要拿错，不要拿别人的，因为是您自己个人的这个验血的报告，还有就是您的这个如何的解读关于这个您的验血的这个数目都在里面啊。
And please don't open the envelope because it's going to distract you from listening to Dr. Dill's presentation.
那么当今天下午我们在这边进行健康讲座的时候，请不要打开您的这个信封，因为如果说您打开的话呢，会造成您就是没办法能够专心听今天下午这个戴汉斯博士为我们讲的这个健康讲座。
Now the lab report, it took Dr. Dill and me 1 whole week to prepare that.
那么整个这个信封呢，是花了戴汉斯博士还有我们2个人呢，花1整个星期的时间呢，就是为您写的这个报告啊。
We drew your blood on Sunday.
因为我们上个星期天呢，抽了您的血。
Sunday night I came to the church to sort out all the samples with each individual names. Took me about 2 hours in the evenings.
那么呢，这个星期天验完血之后呢，星期天晚上我差不多花了2个小时的时间，把每一个人的这个数据，还有就是这个把名字结果呢，我差不多花2个小时的时间。
And then on Monday morning, I drove from here to Los Angeles to give all the specimen, about 93 specimen to the reference lab in Los Angeles.
那么就是星期一，我就把整个这个93位这个来抽血的人的结果呢，把这个拿到一个洛杉矶那边的一个这个血库啊。
And then on Tuesday morning, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning to look at the lab report.
然后呢，星期二早上一大早，我就打开电脑看一看，就说是化验的这个结果啊。
Transfer from the lab report to your evaluation form. By 9 a.m., I give the whole thing to Dr. Dill to review and to write comments.
然后把整个这个验血的报告，星期二早上9点之后呢，我把它结果呢也给这个戴安斯博士看，然后我们要花时间解读啊。
And then on Thursday, it's me and my wife put every lab report into the white envelope.
然后就是星期四早上，我跟我太太呢就必须要把所有的人的结果呢放在这个白色的信封里面给你们。
So please do not open it up until the presentation is over, and Dr. Dill will give an overview of the report.
然后就说是请现在不要先打开来看啊，然后只等到就是我们把这个今天的讲座讲完的时候呢，当然是博士会给您介绍就是怎么个解读这里面的那个内容之后呢，再打开啊。
Now in your folder, you notice that there is a small document with this title here called "Choose a Diet That is Low in Saturated Fat and Cholesterol and Moderate in Total Fat." All of you have that piece of documentation.
然后在你的这个讲义夹里面呢，有这样的一张纸哈，是关于说您选择的这个饮食，还有就说是这个饱和脂肪酸是低的，还有就是胆固醇是低的，然后就说是在整个这个用油的过程当中必须要是低的，这样的一份这个纸张也在里面啊。
That article that put in there is my mistake. It's not for this presentation.
那个是我的犯的错，因为这个文章呢，其实不是应该是放在这里面要给你们的。
So after the presentation is over, come and meet me. I will exchange with you. You give me this documentation. It's mostly black and white. I'm going to give you another new documentation. They're all in colored.
然后就说是请你们在健康讲座结束的时候呢， 把这一张拿回来还给我，我就会把
So-
另外一张就是还给您因为会给您一张就是彩色的，而不是这张这个黑白的，所以这个是我错的，所以您把这个错的还给我，我就把这个彩色的呢再给您
So please come and see me for exchange.
所以这个结束之后呢，请拿过来，请来找我呢，就是来把这个应该拿到正确的纸张呢给您这样子
I have about 118 people registered. Almost everybody got their blood test done, the evaluation done, except these 2, 4, 6, 7 people.
那么呢，我呢就说是有7个人就是没有做完我118个人当中呢，我大部分的人都做完这个验血报告了，有几个人是没有做完的
So if your name is up there after the meeting, please come and see me. I will explain to you what needs to be done.
那如果说是您的名字在这些上面的话呢，结束之后请您来找我，那我会来告诉你说你应该怎么做。
Now, for those of you who could not be in person, that you want to watch online, these are the two links that you can link to and watch our presentation at your comfort of your home.
然后就说是，如果现在您就是在这个电脑上，在己在家里打开来看如果说是您那个没有办法能够来的话呢，您可以在自己的家里可以打开电脑看。现在我们讲的这个呢，在这个网络上有在现场直播的一个是星期六，就是今天下午的，还有一个是明天下午的。
And this seminar is recorded. You can watch at any time.
因为这个健康讲座呢，是我们透过这个网络直播呢有录下来，所以你任何时候回家呢，也可以把旧的打开来重新复习
And I know people from different states are watching it. And also I know somebody from overseas, like Singapore and Malaysia, is watching it
我
too.
知道就说是在美国的别的州呢，也有人看我们今天这个健康讲座，还有就是世界不同的国家美国以外的海外呢，也有人在看这个健康讲座。
So all you have to do is go to YouTube and type the word Loma Linda Chinese Church.
那么呢，如果是您先要自己去找的话呢，就是在 YouTube 上面去打出来说是 Loma Linda Chinese Church，
And then you search for the date and the title.
那你就把那一个天，还有就是那一个这个讲座的题目呢也找出来
And you can see today's presentation is 10-2-21, weapon of mass destruction Saturday, and then the 10-3 is on Sunday, tomorrow.
那么呢，你可以看到就是今天的节目呢是10月2号，刀子和叉子这个大规模杀伤性武器，然后就是明天呢是10月3号，星期天的也在那边
The only problem we have that is people in the Asian country.
唯一的问题就是在亚洲国家的人。
Because when they look at the date, they thought it's February 10 and March 10.
OK。
Because the month and the date are different.
唯一的问题就是在亚洲的国家，他们可能会搞错，他们以为是2月10号或者是3月10号，因为他们的日子那个月份跟那个日子呢是颠倒过来写法的，就是亚洲那边的国家。
So you have your envelope, please keep it safe.
所以您有您的这个验血报告请您就是把它就是保存在一个不会搞丢的地方，安全的
Pastor Akira this morning gave a presentation. He told everybody I'm so stubborn.
今天早上那个张牧师在讲道的时候，讲到说我是一个顽固的人
Friends, when you look at the lab report, please pay attention to the numbers.
所以那个朋友们，当你看到的时候，这个是我5年前的这个我的验血的报告，你要注意你的数字。
Numbers don't lie, people do.
你知道这个人会说谎，但是这个数字呢不会说谎的。
People do lie because we are in denial. We don't accept the numbers.
人呢会说谎，为什么呢？因为我们不愿意接受这些事实、这些数字所以我们就是故意不承认这些数字。
I work in a clinical laboratory, and every year when I go for a physical checkup, the doctor will always tell me you're obese, your cholesterol is high, and the best thing is that I work in the lab and I'm not paying attention to those numbers.
你知道吗？我过去就是我自己在医院也工作，我也是在那个医院化院做这个血的检查的。那么呢，我自己每年也检查我的身体呢，医生就会跟我讲说你太胖了，然后你这个也不行，那个也不行，我都不愿意接受。
Every year the doctor tell me lose weight, but he did not focus on get my cholesterol down, get my LDL, and I need to lose weight, my BMI from 35 to ideal weight.
然后呢，就是每一年每次我去看医生，医生都叫我说你要减肥，你要减肥，所以我非常的注意我的这个胆固醇的这个数字我的这个整个这个身体面积，还有就是我的这个腰围啦，我的体重等等
And so today you're going to hear from Dr. Hansdale the method how to eat healthy and stay healthy and get all those red numbers down.
所以呢，今天这个戴汉斯博士呢，就会为您讲解你要怎么个把这些数字，你的体重、胆固这些数字怎么个降下来，怎么个吃，怎么个活得健康，这个数字怎么个降下来
And his topic called the weapon of mass destruction.
所以他今天讲的题目呢，就是刀子和叉子叉子和刀子，大规模杀伤性的武器
Let us pray.
让我们一起低头来祷告。
Our dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for loving each one of us.
亲爱的天父上帝，我们感谢您爱我们每一位。
You are the potter, and we are your clay.
上帝，您是窑匠，而我们是你的泥土。
You are our creator, our provider. You know what's best for each one of us.
你是创造主，而且你是爱我们的主。
And you have sent your servant, Dr. Dew, to teach us, to educate us, what is your master plan.
您把你的仆人戴安斯博士放在我们当中，教导我们如何的吃，如何的生活，教导我们更好的计划。
Give each one of us an open mind and a receptive heart to accept the message.
愿你打开我们的内心，使我们能够接受你的信息。
Amen.
阿门。各位午安。我们有在这个网上吗？
Yeah. My presentation this afternoon is entitled
今天下午我讲的题目
Fork and Knife Weapons of Mass Destruction.
就是叉子和刀子大规模杀伤性的武器。
Imagine
您想想看。
In 1960, this country, we spent 5% of our income on medical care.
你可不可以想想看，就说是在1960年代呢，如果说我们大部分的我们国家的这个消费钱都是花在医疗费用上面的话
That was 1960.
那个就是1960年代。
Nowadays, we're spending 20% of our income on medical care, which is 4 times more than 50, 60 years ago.
那么呢，我们现在所花在这个整个全美国的医疗费用呢，是比40-50年前还要高出4倍以上。
And with all the money we spend on medical care, our children today will live shorter lives than we do.
然后呢，我们花这么多钱在医疗上面呢，我们的孩子们的生命，他们的岁数呢，居然是比我们还要短。
Our life expectancy is declining.
我们的这个岁数已经是越来越短了。
As a country,
身为一个国家，
we spend the most money in the world on medical care.
我们呢是全世界花最多的钱在这个医疗上面的。
We spend twice as much as the next country in the world.
我们那个下一个比我们花更多的钱的国家呢，我们比他们花的2倍高。
And yet we are only number 46 in the countries in the world in our life expectancy.
但是呢，我们的这个寿命就是在全世界排名居然是第46，这么后面。
You know what that means?
这是什么意思呢？
Money cannot buy health.
意思就是说，钱你花钱你也买不到这个健康的意思。
Only you can determine your health.
唯有您自己可以决定自己的健康。
Because our modern killer disease relate largely to what our culture tells us to do and what we choose to do for ourselves.
因为我们整个这个美国的现在的环境，这个文化，它教导我们的是不一样，而你自己可以选择自己要过的生活。
So, what are some of the factors that are actually placing us at such a dismal number, like number 46 among all the nations in the world in life expectancy? Why?
所以到底是什么原因造成我们这个美国是全世界这个长寿当中排名第46？原因是什么呢？
Is there something wrong with the water?
是不是这个喝的水不对啊？
Are there some terrorists poisoning the environment?
难道说是有些什么恐怖分子故意污染我们的美国的水源吗？
Or are we making the decisions ourselves?
还是说我们自己在花时间决定我们自己的将来啊？
And my suggestion this afternoon is that we're doing it ourselves in how we use fork and knife.
那我今天要讲的这个建议，就是说我们应当要如何的决定，如何的使用我们的叉子和刀子。
So let me go back to 1928.
我们来看一下，就是1928年的时候啊。
Could we have the slides up back there?
Something I think is the over there is not on, turning on. So yeah, I think they're working on it now. It's coming out. It's coming out. So takes. It's coming out.
It has to warm up first. Okay. So let me go back to 1928.
那么呢，让我来跟您回答说，在我们回去想一想1928年的时代啊。
A medical report from one of the top physicians in the world appeared at that time, talking about the prevalence of heart disease in America.
那么在那个1928年代，有一些这个心脏病的医学专家聚在一起呢，就是在研讨这个全世界的心脏病的时候。
Heart disease was very rare.
你知道，在那个年代啊，这个心脏病是很少的。
As a matter of fact, they estimated that on the average, you can expect one heart attack a year in an average hospital in an average-sized town. One a year.
当时呢，在那个年代，就是说差不多就是一些中等以上的这个城市哈。如果那个城市有一家医院的话，一年当中大概只有一个心脏病而已。
But things have changed.
但现在时代已经不一样了。
Today we're experiencing 3,000 heart attacks every day in this country.
那么今天呢，在我们这个美国这个国家呢，每一天至少有3000个以上的人呢发心脏病发作。
And every third death relates to a disease that is largely preventable.
然后就是1/3的人的死亡都跟这个有关系，这些都是应该是可以被预防的。
Look at cancer.
还有另外就是关于这个癌症啊。
We have seen a dramatic increase in the incidence of breast cancer from 1 in 20 women in the 1960s to 1 in 7 today.
那么呢，过去在1960年代呢，就是20位女士当中只有1位癌症，今天是7位女士当中就有1位癌症。
And diabetes has been advancing
那么这个
every 15 years, doubling.
在这个糖尿病也是一样，就是每15年呢就已经增加1倍的糖尿病人数。
A baby born today can expect to be 1 out of 3 babies to develop diabetes in a lifetime.
那么在这个所有的婴儿当中呢，大概3个婴儿当中就有出生1个呢是有患糖尿病的。
And you know the story about obesity.
那你也知道说关于这个肥胖症哈。
Today, 7 out of 10 American adults are either overweight or obese.
那么呢，在10个美国人当中有7个人他不是体重过重就是过胖。
And much of that relates to this particular picture.
那么有很多的这些原因都是跟这个图案有关系的哈。
The most important aspect of this picture is you look at the bottom line where it says GDP, the blue line.
最下面你可以看到这个英文的 GDP 这个数字哈。
That actually means the larger the income of a society, the more disease you have.
意思就说是这个越收入越高的家庭呢，它的疾病呢是越多的。
We're talking about chronic diseases, disease that you cannot heal with medications or with procedures.
我们现在讲的病是指慢性病，这些慢性病是没有办法能够靠着药物或者是那个手术来给你医治好的。
You mean if you're rich, then you have more chronic disease? How could that be?
你说，难道我们这个美国国家有更多的慢性病吗？怎么可能呢？
I thought if you had some reserves in the bank, that actually puts you at much better likelihood of living a longer life.
有很多人以为说，好像我们把很多些钱呢存在银行里面，我们能够活得更久。
What that really tells you here is,
在这边讲的这个数字啊，
on the left-hand side,
你
you
可以看到这
see
个在左手边这些数字哈
as，you move more towards the right-hand side where you have more income,
然后从由左而右呢，你看下面就是他们下面的那个钱的越大呢，就是表示说他的收入更高。
the green bar on the left, that represents the amount of simple foods that we eat.
那么呢，左边的这个绿色的这个颜色最长的哈，这个就说是你吃的这个更简单的食物的
As
颜
you
色
move。to the right-hand side, becomes less and less and less, and there's virtually very little of healthy foods eaten today, foods as they come in nature.
然后就说是你看这个绿色的这个颜色呢，到右边越来越少，表示到了我们今天这个时候呢，吃那种简单的健康的食物的这个成分是越来越少的。
Most of what we eat today comes from fats, oils, and grease.
那么今天我们吃的大部分的食物都是从这个脂肪那个油啦这些东西而来，还有什么糖分这些东西啊。
Incidentally, oil does not actually exist in food by itself.
你知道这个其实油啊，在这个食物当中是没有自己说是自然而然的会有这些油的。
Except for some olive oil taken out of the olive, we didn't have very many fats at all, any oils, about 100 years ago.
除了好像就是说是这个olive 这个东西之外呢，就是我们很多年前所采取的这个食物当中是没有什么油的。
So we've seen a dramatic increase in the oils and fats and grease, and also in the amount of sugar that we eat.
所谓的 olive 刚刚没有讲出来，就说是橄榄就是除了橄榄之外呢，就是没有其他食物都没有什么油。反正我们今天这个食物呢，加了很多的油啦、糖啦这些东西。
And whenever you reach the right-hand side column there,
当你看看，就是说在右手边的这个
where you can see most of the calories come in the red colors from animal fats and vegetable fats, and then yellow colored sugars.
然后你看看，就说是这个红色的颜色是指那个动物的脂肪，就是黄色的是指这个糖分等等。
And then over time, you see a significant increase in the amount of animal protein, the blue color.
然后就是你看看，就是好像这个动物的脂肪呢，人们所吃的食物的越来越多动物的脂肪。
Whenever you see anywhere in the world this kind of diet composition, you will always find chronic diseases.
然后当你就是看到一整个国家呢，他们吃的这些东西，这个颜色是这样子的时候呢，你就看到说整个国家里面的人口呢，慢性病是很多的。
There's a direct relationship between this kind of a diet on the right-hand side and the chronic diseases in the world.
所以这个也都是一样，这全世界各个不同的国家呢，有很多这样的这个慢性病。
Let me give an example.
给你一个例子
1950,
1950年代，
the University of Tokyo, the medical school, called on Johns Hopkins University in America, please sell us some coronary arteries.
那么在那个1950年的时候，这个日本东京大学还居然问这个约翰霍普金斯大学说，你可不可以把这个冠状动脉卖给我们？
We have no coronary artery disease among Japanese people in Japan.
因为我们在日本呢没有这个冠状动脉的这个疾病的人。
And we want to show medical students in Japan what kills every second American, namely coronary artery disease or heart disease.
我们当时呢，就是说在日本没有这样的这个疾病，但是美国这边居然有这么多人都有这个心脏病就是叫做冠状动脉性的疾病。
Can you sell us some coronary arteries? I mean, the people have to die, of course, first. Then we excise them, and then we ship them to Japan to show medical students what kills every second American because the disease couldn't be found in Japan in 1950.
因为在1950年代的时候呢，在美国找不到这样的这个疾病，所以他们居然问美国说：“你们给我们看一看，什么叫做冠状动脉性疾病，然后让这个心血管阻塞死的。”他们不知道，干脆叫美国寄一个过来给他们看。
China, 1985, was difficult to find heart disease there. I was there. It was very difficult to find high cholesterol numbers in China, maybe in Beijing and some of the big cities, but by and large, very, very low rates.
所以在1985年的时候呢，我也去过中国，在那一个时代，就是在中国没有什么这个心脏病发生的人，可能在一些大城市，什么北京之类的，是很少在那个时候。
If you would make your living by being a cardiologist in China, you'd have to sharpen pencils.
如果说是你那个在那个中国呢，你是一个心脏病学的，好像这个医生的话，可能你赚不到钱，你只好在那边削铅笔了。
Lithuania, a small country.
立陶宛是一个很小的国家
In Eastern Europe.
这个立陶宛是在这个东欧。
The Russians took it over after World War II.
这个是世界大战2次世界大战之后，俄罗斯占领了这个立陶宛。
And then in 1991, the Russians were kicked out of Lithuania.
然后在1991年的时候呢，这个俄罗斯人就被立陶宛给赶出去。
And who came in?
然后呢，就是其他人去了。
The West.
就是西方的世界就进入立陶宛。
And with the West came democracy.
然后就是西方的世界，就是把这个民主呢这个观念带去这个国家。
Pornography.
还有就是什么黄色照片都带进去。
Coca-Cola,
可口可乐也带进去，
M&Ms,
就是这个巧克力的 M&M，
the Western refined foods.
所以还有所有的这个西方的这种精致的食物呢，也都带进去。
And the people of Lithuania who never had these foods before, they just loved it.
然后就是立陶宛的国家说，哦，我们从来都没有吃过这些食物啊，这些好像很棒哦。
And 21 years later,
21年之后，
heart disease have doubled in Lithuania.
在这个立陶宛的21年之后，他们的心脏病的人数增加1倍。
I've been working there for the last 15 years.
我过去在这个医疗界的15年，
We're now involved in a major national effort to educate the people.
我们花很多时间去这个立陶宛呢，要教育他们关于这个怎么个吃的健康，
To empower the people to go back to their original foods.
必须要教导他们如何就懂得去找这个健康的食物的观念。
Because if you eat like Americans, you die like Americans.
因为你如果吃的像是美国人一样呢，你会死的像是美国人一样。
Then I was really shocked when I was in Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago,
几年前我很惊讶，我在那个沙烏地阿拉伯的时候，
and I saw people, women,
我看到很多一些男男女女的，
all dressed in black.
他们都穿的黑的衣
You
服，
couldn't see anything except 2 eyes,
从头到脚都包起来，只看到眼睛而已。
but they were all well-rounded and standing in line, long lines of McDonald's.
但是他们呢，就是穿的是这样衣服里面是肚子是大大的，然后就是很多人都是站在那个麦当劳外面呢排队。
So let's unpack these dietary changes that when they come into society, they will always relate to these Western chronic diseases.
所以让我们就是来把这些食物呢一个一个给它取消掉，因为所有的这些食物呢都是来带来给您是西方的那种慢性疾病。
We have 2 major dietary shifts.
那么这里有这种2个这种饮食的这个很大的变化哈。
You can here see the amount of sugar per person, teaspoons wise, has dramatically increased over the last.
你可以看到，就是从1825年一直到今天呢，就是每一个人他们摄取的这个糖分的增加是这么多。
People in our society no longer eat potatoes, they eat potato chips.
我们呢过去是吃这个烘烤马铃薯，今天是吃这个炸的洋芋片。
They drink no longer water, they drink soda pop.
他们不喝水，他们喝这些汽水。
They no longer eat beans, they eat burgers.
然后他们不再吃那些这个豆然后他们吃的是那种就是点心，就是炸的。
And apparently we're totally unaware of the shift that is taking place in our dietary habits that are culturally promoted.
都很多的父母亲都不晓得这个孩子们所吃的东西呢，他们饮食文化早就已经变了。
I talk sometimes to people and I say, you know, you might want to change your diet.
我告诉人说，哎呀，也许你需要改变一下你的饮食。
And they say, oh, no, doctor, we're on a very healthy diet. We're doing just fine.
那么他们就说，没有关系，我们吃的很健康不会的。
They have no idea how their diet has shifted since the 1970s in our society.
他们根本就不晓得说，我们这个饮食从1970年代已经改变了这么多。
We have foods now that we have never seen before.
他们有很多我们现在有很多一些食物呢，是过去从来都没看过的。
Rich foods.
那些所谓的那种丰富的饮食。
In the 1960s and 70s, we would have a steak that was 3 ounces in size. Today, an average size is 12 ounces. Porterhouse steak, 16 ounces.
然后就是以前那个在1960年代吃的这个牛排呢，顶多是好像那个6盎司，今天的吃的是2倍、3倍以上。
Now we have Dairy Queens.
你知道这个是在卖的这个叫做 Dairy Queen， 是卖那个冰淇淋的店
And one innocent-looking milkshake.
你有没有看过？好像这个
A large
奶
one,
昔，
2,000 calories. That's more than a woman should have for the whole day.
这个一杯奶昔的这个热量呢，就是差不多2000多的卡路里呢。这个是我们一天需要的这个热量的倍数啊。
And of course, you know, remember, we talked about that before, that about almost 50% of our calories today come from refined, empty calories. They have no nutritional value.
而且你知道，就是我们今天所摄取的很多这个热量当中呢，50%以上都是那种没有用的、毫无意义的一种这个毫无意义的热量。
So that was the first shift that began in 1970.
所以这个就是从1900年代呢，一直到1970年代开始改变啊。
But there's been another major shift in the diet.
但是在我们的饮食当中，还有更多的这个改变。
We have significantly increased the amount of meat, animal products in our diet.
我们也是就是改变了很多这些肉类方面的这个饮食啊。
Here you see we've gone from 124 pounds per person per year
以前就是
to
一个人
200 pounds per person per year.
一个人以前一年顶多吃124磅的鸡肉，现在是一年呢一个人要吃掉200多磅的各式各样不同的肉。
Seriously, would you have guessed that the average American person in a lifetime eats 12 cows? I mean, everything from the snout to the tail.
所以你有没有想过，就是一个美国人呐、就是想想看，就是他一年要吃掉12头牛，是从头吃到尾巴的底啊。
Would you imagine that the average American on top of it eats 25 pigs, hogs in a lifetime?
你可不可以想想看，就是美国人一年一个人吃掉这个25只肉啊，25只那个猪，25头猪。
And 2,400 chickens in a lifetime.
然后他们一生当中差不多快平均吃掉2400多只鸡啊。
Now remember, when we talk about cholesterol, cholesterol is only found in animal products.
你知道吗？我们刚刚讲到是这个胆固醇啊，这个胆固醇唯有在肉类里面呢才能够找得到，其他的食物里面没有的。
That's how cholesterol is packaged.
这些都是这个胆固醇啊。
You just add now the eggs to it and the dairy products, and you have most of the cholesterol comes in the American diet.
然后就是你再把这个什么鸡蛋还有这个牛奶全部加上去呢，你就会把整个这个美国的这种那个饮食里面的这个胆固醇全部加进去了啊。
And people come to me sometimes and say, "But Dr. Deer, we need to have some meat because we have to get our protein."
有些人就跟我来讲，哎，戴汉斯博士啊，我们需要吃一点点肉啊，因为我们需要一点点蛋白质，对不对啊？
Well, take a look at this chart there.
我们来看一下这个数字啊。
On the bottom, you see the American hot dog.
你看一下
That's
这个
15% fat, but 15% protein, but 85% fat.
你看这个，比方说我们美国人吃的这个热狗啊，就是这个香肠哈，它那个蛋白质也不过是只有15%，剩下都是脂肪呢，就达到85%啊。
And many people don't seem to realize
很多人都是没有去想到，
these processed foods, these animal products, have been declared by the World Health Organization as being carcinogenic. They're causing cancer, just like smoking causes cancer. So these animal products, processed meats, are directly related to cancers.
你知道，就是我们刚刚所看的那些所有的这个肉类啊，这个世界卫生组织呢，就是把这些肉类呢，全部给它归类成说是会致癌的物质啊，这个其实都是会造成癌症的。
But Dr. I love my sirloin steak. And after all, it's also high in protein, isn't it? There's a sirloin steak there. It's 25% protein and 75% fat. Ladies and gentlemen, you are eating a high-fat food. Don't be misled by marketing.
你知道，就是我们德国人呢也很喜欢吃这一些不同的各式各样那个熏肉啦，那个其他的哈。我告诉你，这里面很多的这个都是属于是脂肪的，不要被那些他们那个商业化的那种这个生意呢给这个欺骗啊。
And you say, but I love my cheese.
但是有人讲说，我很喜欢这个起司。
It's totally addictive.
我是非常上瘾，我喜欢吃这个牛奶这个起司啊。
If we remove cheese from the American culture, the culture would collapse.
有人讲说是这个从美国人的文化里面呢，把这个起司给取消掉的话，这个文化會这个倒
Can you imagine a
下来。
pizza without cheese?
你可以想想看，就是好像美国人好像吃东西可以不要有起司吗？
And cheese is 71% of all the calories comes from fat.
你知道这个整个这个起司里头的这个它的热量呢，71%是从这个脂肪而来的。
And here you see what happened to the cheese consumption.
你知道这个整个这个起司他们这个用的多少啊？
We have gone from 3.8 pounds per person per year to 32. It's almost now 36 pounds per person per year.
所以这个美国人这个一年呢要消耗的这个起司呢，是从3.8磅变成是32.8磅。
And cheese today represents the number one cause, the number one source of saturated fats, which drives the liver to make the cholesterol.
然后这个美国的这个脂肪饱和脂肪的第一个来源呢，就是这个起司。这个饱和脂肪呢，会造成你的这个肝里面的这个负担的啊。
Cheese looks so innocent.
你知道这个起司啊，这看起来好像是无罪的。
It looks so attractive.
他们看起来好像是这个非常吸引人的。
When it melts, it makes everything taste good.
当它这个融化的时候，好像会让每一个什么东西好像 闻起来好吃好香啊。
Don't be deceived, it will bite you.
我告诉你了，你不要被这些骗了，因为这些东西会咬你一口的。
So this is the great American diet.
这个是我们的美国人的这个饮食哈。
Everybody in the world dreams about the American diet. That's what we want.
很多在世界各国的人，他们的梦想要就是成为美国人，然后就是吃的跟美国人一样。
And
他
take
说
a
这个是
closer
我们
look
要
at
的。
it. About 55% of all the calories that we eat here in this country comes from refined, processed, engineered food. These foods don't come like this in nature.
你知道这个所有的我们美国人吃的饮食当中呢，50%以上的这个饮食呢，都是这个精致的食品啊，这些东西都是不自然的啊。
Another 31% of the calories that we eat comes from animal products.
然后呢，其实其他的好像这个当中呢，有很多是那个动物制的制品啊。
And of course, you know what that is.
你知道是什么意思吗？什么叫动物制的制品？
That's beef and that's
什么牛肉啦，
fowl,
还有其他的，好像这个什么这个鸟类啦，哈，
that's pork,
还有这个猪肉啊，鸡蛋啊，
that's cheese,
还有这个起司啦，
milk product.
这些都是那个
31% of all the calories we eat comes from this source.
所以31%的这些那个热量呢，26的热量都是从这些而来的哈。
You forget all of this. Just remember one thing.
你如果说不记得这一些我讲的这些数字，只记得一个事情就好。
Only 14% of the calories that we eat in America today comes from foods that come off the hand of the master designer.
就是美国人所吃的饮食当中，只有14%是从那种自然的这个水果蔬菜，是我们的上帝所创造的，只有14%而已。
Let me say that again.
我再跟你讲一次哈，
Only 14% of all the calories that we eat in our society today
只有我们全世界，我们全那个我们的社会当中只有14%的这些东西啊。
only 14% of our calories come out of the hand of a master designer, real food as designed by a higher authority.
只有这个美国人吃的食物里头呢，只有14%是从这个上帝所创造的自然的蔬菜水果而来。
Everything else is engineered or animal products.
所有其他的东西呢，都是人所那种加工的之后的这种不健康的东西。
Whenever you have this kind of a diet composition, you will always have chronic diseases.
因为你看看，就整个这个里头的数据呢，有很多的人呢都会造成这个慢性疾病，
You will have heart disease,
变成这个心脏病，
congestive heart failure,
还有就是这个心衰竭，
various cancers.
还有不同的这个癌症，
You have arthritis.
还有这个关节炎，
You have diabetes.
糖尿病，
You have high blood pressure.
还有这个高血压，
Your arthritis.
还有就是这个
These are largely male self-made diseases that are culturally promoted.
这些很多都是这个美国的文化所推动的，我们自己所造成的这些疾病。
And here's my good news for you.
在这边呢，我有一个好消息给各位：
If these diseases are self-made,
如果这一些这个病呢都是自己个人就是我们自己制造出来的话，
then we should be able to reverse them.
那么呢，你自己一个人应该有办法自己靠自己的方法呢，就给它逆转回来。
And tomorrow I will show you the scientific data
明天我会给你看这些科学的数据，
that shows that you can reverse heart disease, you can reverse arthritis, you can reverse high blood pressure, you can reverse overweight, you can reverse diabetes. Within the turnaround begins within days and weeks because you empower the body to begin hit itself again.
就说你可以呢逆转你的慢性病、你的心脏病、你的糖尿病、你的体重过重胆固醇这些，你都可以逆转呢，在几天当中或者是1-2个星期当中，因为你的身体里面有这个能力能够帮助逆转。
But don't play it safe.
但是呢，不要
Say, well, it's probably not that important. It's probably a bit exaggerated.
有时候你可能会以为说，哎呀，这些都是哪有那么
It's not.
严重啊？不会那么就是严重了，可以不要去管了。我告诉
It's
你，
not.
你不要认为是这样子。
It's a matter of life and death.
事实上呢，这个事情很严重，是关系到你的生与死。
It's a matter of health and disease.
这个是关于你的健康跟疾病的问题。
It is so important to me and to our team
那对我们还有我们整个团队很重要的。
that we have 2 special guest speakers coming tomorrow.
那我们明天有2位这个客串的这个讲
2
座的讲
lovely
员，
ladies,
2位这个
well
女士，
trained,
他们有很好的这个训练，
specializing in social change.
他们呢有这个社会上的一种逆转的力量。
And they will make themselves available on Monday night, on Tuesday night, and on Thursday night to guide you on Zoom to make the jump start into the healthy diet.
然后呢，他们可以帮助你们在星期一晚上、星期二晚上还有星期四晚上呢，能够帮助你做那种就是洁净，也就是那个排毒的这样的一种方法。
This is not something that you want to take lightly.
这个是你不要就是把它当作是不要轻看这些事情。
This is your best chance you will ever have to make lifestyle changes, and you hardly pay anything for it.
这个是你能够花时间，就是把这个人生的这个生活方式给改变的一个最好的机会啊！不要错过这些机会。
You can go to a fancy program in Florida.
你可以花很多的钱去飞到佛罗里达去参加这些这个节目。
You spend 4 weeks in a beautiful spa.
也许你花4个星期在一个很设备很好的医院里面。
They give you 2 and 3 lectures a day.
他们一天都给你就是2场这个健康讲座。
They make sure that you walk every day.
然后他们确定说你每天在那边就是要运动走路。
They feed you mostly food that comes out of the hand of the master designer.
然后他们喂你吃的食物呢，都是那个健康的那种自然的这个蔬菜水果。
And the clinical results have been published in more than 120 some scientific papers in medical journals.
然后就是这些他们所研究的结果呢，都是在120多个这个学术研究当中都发表杂志的。
Reversing diabetes, reversing heart disease, reversing arthritis, reversing hypertension, and so on.
然后就是他们能够帮助你逆转那个心脏病糖尿病啦、高血压啦这些这个慢性疾病都可以帮助你逆转。
But you also paid $21,000 for 4 weeks.
但是你知道吗？你去参加佛罗里达这样的这个健康的这个节目4个星期呢，你要花21000块。
Aren't you glad you don't have to pay that much here?
你可不可以？你是不是很高兴说你不需要花那么多的钱去
I
那
mean,
边
the
呢？
church and sponsors are offering this program to you basically for free. And that includes all the blood tests before and after. And we want to make sure that you have not only the blood tests before, but you also do them again in 5 weeks. And then the truth will begin to emerge whether you have really invested yourself in the program earnestly.
然后呢，我们就是只是在教会给你办，那你可以省下那么多钱就来呢，不单是几乎是快像是免费的，而且你还有这个2次的抽血检查。你一定要就是下一次的抽血检查也要做，然后这个抽血检查之间呢，你要花很用力的呢，就是把自己的生活方式改变。你可以看到这个数据的不同。
So let me talk to you briefly about heart disease, the number 1 killer in our society.
所以我现在要在这边就说是分析一下，就是美国的第1大这个致命的这个疾病就是冠状动脉心脏疾病。
There's usually nothing wrong with the heart.
这个心脏呢，本来是就说是没有什么疾病的。
When it comes to heart disease, what's wrong are the coronary arteries, the arteries on top of the heart muscle. They're becoming occluded and narrowed down, just like the pipes in your water system. They fill up with calcium, they become narrowed down, and the water can no longer flow optimally through them.
然后这个心脏呢，本来是没什么毛病的，但是我告诉你，毛病就是出在包围着心脏外围的这些这个冠状动脉这个血管。那这些血管呢，里面越来越多很多其他东西呢，就好像是这个家里的水管里不通一样。
And this is a typical artery of a 55-year-old male in America.
这个是很典型的一个55岁的美国的中年人，他的这个心血管里面的这个相片哈。
You take an artery and you take a cross section of it and you look at it.
然后你把这个它的血管几个切开来，从这边看起来就像这个样
And
子。
this is the artery wall here, the dark bluish color. But the inside here, this is all the filling in of cholesterol and fats and calcium, and hardens the artery on the inside. They can no longer distend themselves properly.
然后你看，就是它外围这个比较黑的部分才是真正是血管，中间那些什么比较白的那部分呢，都是那个阻塞的啊。因为这些阻塞呢，让这个血管变得是硬化，让这个血管没有这个弹性啊。
So this artery probably has a 65 to 70% narrowing.
所以整个这个血管呢，差不多有好像65%到70%是已经在阻塞了啊。
And that's oftentimes the first time that you develop some chest pain that lets you know there's something wrong with my arteries. They're narrowed down.
然后呢，就是你这个时候就是慢慢开始会感觉到，好像就是你的这个心胸的狭窄，还有这个胸的痛就是心胸疼痛，因为你这血管开始在慢慢堵塞了。
For over 50% of the patients, the first sign of heart disease is sudden death.
你知道这个50%以上的这个心脏有病的人呢，他们来到医院是突然间面临这个事情，然后突然间死亡的。
So if you have angina pain, you're actually very lucky because it tells you you have 70% erring and at least, and you better do something about it right away.
所以如果说你有这个75%以上的这个心血管阻塞，还有就是你开始感觉到心胸闷的时候呢，其实你还有救，你应该赶快去那个找医治。
And the answer is not bypass surgery.
这个治疗的答案呢，不是依
The
靠这
answer
个
is not a
手术，
stent.
也不是说是放这个怎么讲啊，就是
These are only emergency procedures that are usually done within 24 hours within the heart attack.
因为呢，所谓好像这个心脏里面放那些导管啊，这些东西呢，这个即使只是24小时之内临时给你拯救一下罢了。
Furthermore, these bypasses don't last.
因为这些，比方说你放导管，或者是说做什么搭桥手术这些东西呢，它不会永远在你的心脏里面帮你。
40% are closed up again, just like the artery here, within 18 months.
因为40%的人呢，他们做这个导管或者是这个搭桥之后呢，18个月之后呢，又会阻塞回来，像这个样子。
And you just spend $150,000.
那么你就为了这个手术呢，你就花了15万块钱以上。
Are you ready for a second bypass?
难道你还要再做第2次的这个搭桥手术吗？
Do you want to go through the excruciating pain
你要
for 2 months?
把这些搭桥手术这么痛的这个手术还要再做一次吗？
These 10 stents don't last. In 6 months, half of them are gone. They're no longer functional.
你知道吗？他给你做好的这个什么导管还有搭桥这些东西，就是半年之后呢，已经是不管用了。
Unless you make the changes that we're trying to teach you with our 2 special ladies this next week.
那除非就是你愿意，就是跟随我们有2位女士，下个星期愿意教你们怎么个就是做排毒，你愿意跟随他们所教的方法来做。
As a team, we'll explain that to you very carefully tomorrow afternoon.
我们已经跟你花时间解释，明天下午啊。
Tomorrow afternoon is going to be our longest session of all the sessions.
就是在所有的这个我们这一次的这个系列讲座当中，明天下午会比较长啊。
We go from 2 o'clock till 3:45 for the lecture.
那我们这个明天下午讲的这个健康是2点讲到3点45分。
Then we have a very special lady, Esther Lau, making a special food demonstration in the fellowship hall for
然后
half
就
an
是我
hour.
们在这个我们要移动到这个教育厅呢，我们有王所美女士啊，给我们就是示范这个健康营养烹饪。
And then we have these 2 special ladies, and we'll work together to help you to understand what our Jumpstart program is going to be like for the next 7 days after tomorrow.
然后就是在明天结束之后呢，我们会有2位女士跟我们讲解，之后的一系列的7天的这种排毒的方式怎么做。
You'll be amazed how your taste buds begin to adjust.
你会很惊讶说你的这个口味开始会有这个改变。
How you begin to enjoy fresh fruits and whole grains.
也许你会开始慢慢的享用就是那种自然的饮食，还有就是那个全麦饮食那种口味。
How you will begin to enjoy vegetables and legumes.
你会开始享受吃更多这些蔬菜水果，还有这个豆类。
And it won't take very much time.
不会太久的。
It's going to be the 7-day jumpstart. We're starting that after tomorrow night.
然后明天傍晚之后呢，我们就会开始有这个7天的这个排毒。
So coming back to heart disease, when we talk about heart disease, we talk about the narrowing of the coronary arteries.
所以我们讲到这个心脏病呢，其实就是指这个冠状动脉呢开始在堵塞。
We're born with clean arteries. By the time we're 20 years of age, we're 20% narrowed. By the time we're 45 years old, we're about 50-60% narrowed. By the time we're 70 years of age, we're 90% narrowed.
因为你的这个心血管动脉呢，血管堵塞是从出生一直到这个20岁之后，45岁，所以差不多你到70岁的时候，你等于是90%都已经堵塞了。
So this is a progressive disease. It starts in utero when the baby is not even born yet, depending on the mother's diet.
你知道这个血管的堵塞的，甚至是在这个婴儿还没有出生之前就开始，为什么呢？因为自己母亲在妈妈的肚子里面之后，母亲的饮食也会影响到胎儿的这个里面的血管。
And you see here, some people might be 90% narrowed, closed, and they still don't have any pain.
你知道吗？有些人他们是90%的血管都已经是这么堵塞，他还没有感觉到这个心脏的疼痛、心绞疼痛。
And they pass the annual physical, and the doctor says, "Hey, you're doing just great."
然后呢，他1年的去做这个健康检查，那就是说没事，他说我没事啊。
you're aging beautifully like good wine.
因为呢，你觉得好像就说是你那个冻龄哈，好像就是年纪大了，好像就是还没有觉得好像就说是有问题。
Before you even have received the invoice for your services, you collapse and you die of a heart attack in the doctor's office.
然后呢，当你还没有接受到这个医院所寄来给你的账单之前呢，你还要赶到这个医院之前，你就已经在路上可能就已经倒在那边，就已经死了。
Because we cannot diagnose this disease unless you have pain, chest pain, and many people are asymptomatic; they have no pain until later on.
因为呢，有很多的时候，有些这个病人他有这个没有这个心绞疼痛，察觉不出个症状，然后突然间呢就发作呢就死了。
And these diseases are not strictly related to age.
然后这些东西呢都是跟那个年纪呢并不一定有关系。
We have 20-year-old, 30-year-olds today that have coronary artery disease and heart attacks.
因为我们甚至有20岁的人，有30岁的人都有这个冠状动脉的疾病，会死亡的。
The same with diabetes. We used to talk about type 2 diabetes when people are overweight and 60 years of age. Now,
那我们跟这个糖尿病讲的一样，我们过去讲说第2类型的糖尿病是60岁的，现在呢
we have 16-year-old young ladies and boys that are overweight already having diabetes type 2.
我们现在有16岁的年轻的女孩子跟男孩子就已经有是第2类型的糖尿病了。
And what's really distressing to me is this.
对我来说呢，很大的问题，我所看见的就是
This atherosclerosis, this narrowing of the arteries on the inside,
就说是这个冠状动脉哈越来越狭小，这个血管里面哈，
the buildup of fat and calcium cholesterol,
因为它在这个血管里面呢，开始有这个开始有些脂肪啦，有这些那不同的，好像这个钙质啦，在那里面就是在堵塞。
is not only happening in the coronary arteries,
这个时候这些东西呢，不单单只是说是冠状动脉血管的疾病，
but it's happening all over the body in the major arteries. Do you have any idea how many miles of blood vessels the human body has?
你知道吗？这些东西都不单单只是冠状动脉，是很多你的身体里面的一些不同的地方的这个血管都受到影响。你知道人身体里面的血管到底有多长吗？
What would you guess?
你知道会有多长吗？全部的血管加起来，
We estimate there are probably 60,000 miles of blood vessels in the human body.
我们的身体里面的血管呢，就是差不多有6万英里以上的。
And that's why one very profound writer, some years ago, wrote this.
因此呢，有一位这个很有名的作家，就是100多年前就写下这样的一些话。
Perfect health depends on perfect circulation.
完美的健康呢，就是是根据于你的这个完整的一个血液循环。
Almost all of our chronic diseases are largely circulation related.
很多的时候呢，我们这个慢性疾病的这个病呢，都是在你的血液循环的问题上面。
That's why one professor in Germany
因此，在这个德国的一位教授
one time said to me,
他有曾经跟我讲过，
"You're only as young as your arteries."
你很年轻呢，应该都不会有这个心血管动脉疾病的问题。
So you see, if the narrowing process happens to the coronary arteries, then you have to worry about a myocardial infarction, a heart attack, or angina pectoris.
那么呢，如果说你有这个心血管的疾病的话呢，你就会要担心什么心肌梗塞、心绞疼痛这些问题啊。
If it happens to the arteries, to the brain, or to the ear, or to the eye, then you have to worry about cerebral infarction, or a stroke, or senility, or hearing loss, or vision loss. They're all
有问题的话呢，可能发生在上半身的，你就会担心说是脑梗塞、是衰老、听力损失、视力下降，这些都是跟你的这个血液循环的问题有关系的。
And then you look at the kidney vessels, then you have to worry about hypertension and kidney disease.
然后就是你如果说这个事情是发生在你的这个肾脏的话呢，你就会担心你这个高血压啦等等。
If you're pre-diabetic or diabetic and you have to worry about the vessels in your feet, then you have to worry about gangrene, which oftentimes leads to amputation of your toes, of your ankle, of your leg.
那如果说是你是这个还没有要进入糖尿病之前的那个病的话呢，你可能就是血液循环在身体的各个部分不好的话呢，你会担心会有那种坏疽，也就是身体的组织坏掉的病呢，最后你可能必须要手脚都要切掉。
And if this narrowing process affects the penile arteries,
那如果说是这个是在这个发生在这个其他的不同的这个血管的话，
the arteries of a man,
然后这个是男人的血管啊。
then you have to worry about impotence.
就说是那个，如果说是那个男人，这好像这个生殖器官那个血液循环不好的话呢，你就会担心说你有这个阳痿。
You have heard the expression, the canary in the coal mine?
你有没有那个听过？好像关于这个，好像那个这个挖掘矿工的这个故事哈。
In the old days, miners would be very concerned about poisonous gases developing underground.
你知道过去这个矿工他们是很担心说在地底下有一些那种那个煤气、那个毒气啊，在地底下。
And to warn them, they would take a canary in a cage with them down under.
所以那个为了要就是预防说他们在挖矿工的时候呢会遇到什么毒气呢，他们必须要把一些鸟带去这个地下里面。
And then when this canary began to diminish in its life energy, they knew it was time to get up to get fresh air because the canary was in trouble and they would be in trouble next.
如果说他们带的这个宠物呢，在这个矿场地下里面那个越来越不能够呼吸的时候，他们就知道说他们应该要上来了，因为动物不能够呼吸好，他们人也必须要呼吸好。
45% of American men over 45 years of age are already suffering from impotence and ED.
45%的美国的男人呐，就因为这个阳痿他的那个生殖器官呢，就是血液循环不好，阳痿而沮丧啊。
And so ED, erectile dysfunction, someone said actually it stands for early death.
那个所谓的这个
ED, erectile dysfunction.
美国的这个阳痿哈，这个阳痿英文的字母呢，这个用 ED 来代替，这个 ED 代替呢，这个同样的英文字母呢，也可以讲说是早死。
When a man becomes afflicted by ED,
当男人呢有阳痿的时候，
it is a canary in the coal mine. It gives you a warning that other arteries are also beginning to get infected by this disease process.
当你有阳痿的时候，你就应该是一个警讯，对你来说是其他你的身体各个部分、其他的部分的这个血液循环呢也有不好的现象。
You see, because the penile arteries are much smaller than the coronary arteries, and so they can become much easier affected by this buildup.
为什么呢？因为这个男人的这个生殖器官那边的血管呢，是比这个心脏的冠状动脉还要再细的，所以连那个地方都会受到影响，那你就知道说身体其他部分的这个血液循环也肯定是不好的。
And there was a lady
那么有一位这个女士
that 150 years ago talked about perfect health depends on perfect circulation.
她在
In
150
response to a vision from above.
他那个从上帝那边感受到这个意象呢，他就讲说150年前他就讲出来说，完全的健康是根据完整的血液循环。
Now, people sometimes ask me, what are some of the determinants of heart disease? How do I know that I'm at risk?
那么呢，有些人就问我说，那我到底要怎么个决定是我是不是有心脏方面的疾病？我要怎么个知道说我到底有没有这个疾病呢？
In these findings come from one of the largest studies ever done in the world of heart disease.
我们这边有很多这些研究可以知道
It started in 1948.
就是在那个1948年的时候，
They enrolled some 5,000 people in a small town near Boston in Framingham.
那么在这个波士顿那边有一个小的城市叫做 Birmingham
And they followed these people for the next 3 generations.
然后他们就根据这些人还有他们的后代他们根据他们的这些城镇里面这些男人呢这些男女呢，研究他们3代的他们的子孙。
And these researchers measured everything they could measure.
然后这些研究人员呢，他们就是把所有的数据都给它显示出来。
And they found that people who were smokers had much more heart disease.
然后他们发现说，这个抽烟的人他的这个心脏病得的几率更高。
They found that people that had high blood pressure had much more heart disease.
他们发现说，好像这些有那个高血压的人呢，他们的这个得到这个心脏病的几率的更高。
They found the number 1 predictor of developing heart disease was the amount of cholesterol in the bloodstream.
还有就是他们看到，就是在血液里面这个胆固醇很高的人呢，他们得到心脏病的几率也很高。
And subsequently, they found out that if you had diabetes, you were overweight, you had high triglycerides, you didn't exercise, all of these factors contributed to driving this disease called coronary artery disease or atherosclerosis, a narrowing and hardening of the arteries.
所以如果说是您是那个胆固醇也很高啦，血糖也很高啦，就是你是过分的肥胖啦，所有的这些数据全部加起来呢，表示说是你很有这个 心脏病发作的这个危险性呢是有在里面的。
And as we talked once before about this, when you had a very high blood cholesterol, you had a high blood pressure, you were a smoker, you had diabetes, and so on.
那么，比方说，您是胆固醇很高的人，你有这个血压方面的这个问题哈，高血压，还有这个你有抽烟，还有就是你是一个糖尿病的人，这些东西全部加起来，你是有这样的风险。
You were 35 years of age.
然后你是35岁以上
The chance of a heart attack
你会得到这个心脏病的这个危险几率
was 140 times more likely to happen to you when compared to a person that had ideal numbers like cholesterol less than 150, low blood pressure, no smoking, no diabetes, and so on.
那如果说你要跟这些那个绿色的数字的人比起来呢，他的胆固醇也只有150，然后他的血压方面也没有问题，然后就没有抽烟，没有糖尿病，所以加起来你会得到心脏病的几率是这些人的140倍。
This is not that you have a slight increase in the likelihood of a heart attack. No, 140 times more likely to happen in the next 6 years for a 35-year-old man when you have these left-hand red numbers when compared to the ideal numbers.
有些人讲说，难道我是好像是逐渐的会得到这个心脏病吗？不是的，如果是您已经是35岁以上，那么你的这个数字是在左边而不是右边的话呢，你会得到这个心脏病的几率是超过这些人的140倍，这个不是开玩笑的。
And in this seminar here,
在我们今天
my
这个讲
goal
座，
is, my team wants to accomplish that you're moving towards the right-hand side. We want you to be ideal. We want you to have cholesterol below 160, below 150.
那么呢，我们在这一次的这个健康讲座，我们希望能够达成，就是我们希望你的数据呢会转移到变成是绿色的，因此将来你的这个几个星期之后，你检查出来的胆固醇会变得是低于160、150以下，这是我们的目标。
We want you to have cholesterol below 150 without the use of medication.
而且是不要花任何这个药物，不要去吃药，不要靠着吃药。
We want you to have ideal blood pressure without the use of medication.
我们希望你能够得到最好的这个血压量出来，而且是不要用药物的。
And we want you to be no longer a diabetic if you are without use of medication.
那如果说您是糖尿病或者是糖尿病边缘的人呢，我们希望你能够达到这个目标，就是不要依靠药物。在这个讲座结束的时候，
Because medications always have side effects.
因为所有的药物呢都有它的这个副作用。
And once you're on medication, you have to take medication for the side effects, and then you have to take medication for the side effects of the side effects. So we want you to really move towards taking care of the real causes, and the causes have to relate to how you eat and how you drink, how you sleep, how you exercise, and how you handle your stress.
为什么我们不要你服用药物呢？因为你服用药物的时候，你服用这种药物呢，就会有这个副作用。那为了这个副作用，你又要服用其他的药物，那你为了这个另外的副作用，你又要服用别的那个药物。所以我们希望你可以完完全全不要靠药物，靠着你的这个饮食、你的健康、你的运动、你的喝水这些方法呢，去除所有的这些药物。
So what do you think these risk factors that were identified in this famous Framingham study have in common?
所以你觉得到底是有哪一些这个危险因素在这里面
？Take a closer look at these risk factors. Take
让
a
我们
look at the yellow-starred risk factors in particular.
让我们来好像仔细的看一看这些危险的因素，这些就是那个黄色的星星打在这个红色的文字上面的哈。
So what do they have in common?
这些东西有什么样的这个共同的现象呢？
What do they have in common?
有哪些事情是共同的现象？
They're almost all under the control of our lips.
所有的这些东西呢，一个共同现象，就是因为
Our lips are getting us into a lot of trouble.
你的嘴巴都是可以完完全全控制这些东西，因为你的嘴巴呢，你造成你都这么多的疾病的问题。
Cholesterol is largely diet-related.
事实上就是整个胆固醇呢都是饮食所造成的，
High blood pressure is largely diet-related.
高血压呢也是这个饮食所造成的，
Diabetes is largely diet-related.
糖尿病呢也是饮食造成的，
Triglycerides are largely diet-related.
三酸甘磷脂呢，这个也是饮食造成的。
You get the idea?
你现在知道我们所讲的内容了吗？
Forks and knives, weapons of mass destruction.
刀子和叉子这个致命的杀伤武器。
Now here's one of my former colleagues, the late Dr. William Connor. He was one of the foremost researchers in the area of working with atherosclerosis experimentally. He would be able to introduce a heart attack in monkeys. How do you think he did that?
然后呢，这个是我过去一个同事很有名的一位这个心脏病专家医生他会用这个猴子来做实验，来让这个猴子呢做这个变成是这个冠状动脉硬化。他怎么做的？
He said to me jokingly,
他只是开玩笑的跟我讲说
Hans, I just put him on a regular hospital diet.
他跟我开玩笑，他说我只要让这些猴子呢吃那些一般的医院里面的病人在吃的食物就可以了。
And in 19 months, these monkeys are gone.
然后就
Heart
是
attacks.
19个月之后，这些病人这些猴子吃那个跟医院里面的一样的这些饮食，他19个月之后，他们就死了。
So they did many animal experiments to see to what extent they could introduce atherosclerosis or narrowing of the arteries or heart attacks in animals.
所以他们就用很多动物呢，喂他们吃那些很多那个高脂肪的食物来试试看，说他们会不会那个造成这些动物的这个心脏冠状动脉硬化。
And here his conclusion. He said,
这个是他的这个结论他说
he said to create a heart attack in animals is very easy.
他说在这个动物的身上呢，让他们创造这个心脏病是很简单的事情。
All you have to do is give these animals a diet with number one, lots of saturated fat.
主要就说是首先呢，给这些动物吃很多那种这个饱和脂肪酸的食物。
What's the number one source of saturated in the American diet? Remember?
你知不知
Cheese.
美国的这个饱和脂肪酸最高的食物是什么？
Hello？
你还记不记得我刚刚讲过的起司，就是美国这个乳酪起司
You。want to create a heart attack in animals?
你要让这个动物
It's
变得
very
是，
easy. Just give them lots of saturated fat and cholesterol.
你要让那个动物得到这个心脏病，很简单，就让那些动物来
Where do you
吃
find
很多
cholesterol？
这些起司就好了。
Where do you find
在
cholesterol?
哪里可以找到这个这个高
Only in
胆固
animal
醇？
products. The most concentrated form of cholesterol is in an egg yolk.
那个所有的这个胆固醇里面最高的呢，你就可以给他们吃，就是最多就是在那个这个蛋黄里面，最高的胆固醇是在蛋黄里面。
So that's number one, saturated fat and cholesterol. And then he said, coconut oil.
他说第一个呢是先给他们吃那些动物制品，然后第二个呢是给他们吃椰子油。
Because the most saturated fat of any fat in the world is found in coconut oil. That's the last thing you want to put into your body. You can put it on your skin, you can put it on your scalp. It's fine with me, but don't put it inside your body.
然后这个椰子油里面也是很高的这个脂肪酸，饱和脂肪酸，所以你可以把这个椰子油呢涂在这个头上啦，或者是用在身体外围，但是不要放进去身体里面。
I was in Philadelphia 3 weeks ago,
我3个礼拜前在这个美国东岸的费城，
and a person in the audience came to me and says, Dr. Dio,
有一个人就跟我讲说，哎，戴汉斯博士，
I just bought 5 gallons of coconut oil at Costco. What should I do with all this stuff now?
他才跟我讲说，我才刚刚买了这个在 Costco 买了这个5加仑的这个椰子油，我怎么办呢？
I said, sell it to a hair salon because they can use it for the scalp. It's fine.
我跟他讲说，你那
But
干
don't put
脆
it inside.
干脆把你这个油呢送给好像那个发廊他们可以用在好像这个美发上面，但是不要用在那个好像吃进去肚子里面。
So Dr. Connor said, if you want to reproduce atherosclerotic disease in animals, all you have to do is feed them lots of saturated fat, cholesterol, and number 3, trans fats. These are oftentimes found in processed foods, although they're not supposed to use them anymore since 2 years ago
然后
in
就
this
说
country.
总而言之，就是刚刚讲这个 Corner 医生呢，他说，如果说你要让这个动物呢得到这个心脏病的话，就喂他们吃这个动物制品、椰子油、大量的饱和脂肪酸，还有就是反式脂肪。
And trans fat you find in hydrogenated fats and oils.
你知道这个反式脂肪，你说在很多的食物里面都有的。
They don't occur in nature naturally. You don't find margarine in nature. That's a man-made product.
你知道很多这些东西在这个天然的食物里面是找不到的，因为没有说好像这个天然的食物里头会有这个所谓的那种这个人制这个奶油。
So you have to really cut back on these artificial foods that are engineered for taste and for profitability.
所以就是你要很注意，就是说所有的这些饮食呢，他们这些食品公司就是为了要给你赚你的钱呢，把这些加添油物呢放进去里面的。
So we'll talk about the blood test results in just a few moments, but let me give you some background here now. If you want to get your cholesterol down, you have to cut back on your saturated fat.
那么呢，我要在这边跟各位讲一下说，等一下我会跟你讲关于你的血液的这个检查结果哈。
You have to cut back on animal products because they're high in dietary
所以我们要
cholesterol.
就是少吃一个是一些饱和脂肪的，还有就是食物里面所含有的胆固醇的东西啊。
And you have to increase more dietary fiber because it can bring the cholesterol down somewhat.
还有就是你必须要提高食物里面的纤维，你必须要增加你吃的纤维，因为你多吃一些纤维呢，可以降低你的这个好像血压。
So more dietary fat? No. Dietary fiber?
你要吃更多的这个纤维，就是真正的食物纤维。
Where do you find dietary fiber?
你可以在哪里面找到这个食物的纤维呢？
How much do you have in cheese?
在那个起司里面有没有？零。
How much do you have in pork?
猪肉里面有没有？没
How much do you
零。
have in chicken?
鸡肉里面有没有这个纤维？
How much do you
零。
have in eggs?
鸡蛋里面有没有纤维？
Animal
零。
products? Zero.
动物里面完全没有纤维。
Americans only take in about 10 grams of fiber. They should have more like 50 grams. If they had 50 grams, you wouldn't find constipation anymore in American society.
你知道这个
Why?
美国人呢、他们一天吃的这个纤维呢不到10毫克，他们应当一天要吃超过50毫克才对的。
But when you have a dietary fiber deficiency,
然后就是很
it
多这个
becomes so difficult to be productive in any way.
然后
You
就说
sit there and you try and you try and you try. You have enough fiber, enough water.
然后就是美国人呢，他们吃的这个饮食当中，就是连纤维都没有什么纤维，然后也不太喝水。
You no longer have time to read the Reader's Digest on the throne. It's gone.
所以他们就没有这个时间，好像就是做
You go
这些
in, you go out, you're done. Fiber. Where do you find fiber? Fiber is only found in plant foods.
所谓的这个纤维哈，就是那个我们所谓的人要吃的这些需要的这些纤维，只有在这个植物里面、蔬菜水果里面才有。
Whole grains,
全麦的
beans,
豆类，
any kind of plant food usually is fairly high in fiber. Once we move more towards a plant-based diet, you automatically never have to worry about getting enough fiber.
然后就是当你就是你的饮食改变到就是你吃很多的这个蔬菜水果之后呢，你就不再需要去担心说你的纤维够不够。
And intestinal activity will become very easily promoted.
然后就说你的这个好像大小便，特别是好像这个大肠的这个大便呢，会更加的畅通啊。
And that's probably a great relief for many people.
对很多人来说，可能是一种很大的一个就说是能够再放松了。
I visited an old folks' home,
我曾经就是拜访一些就是老
and
人
one of
家
these
的，
lovely ladies had a calendar on the wall.
我看到一些老人家家里他的家里的好像墙壁上面有这个月历，
And it was a weekly calendar,
他有一个月历啊，
and she had one day marked in red.
他就是有一天在那边画一个红色的，
I said, "Is this your birthday?"
问他说你这个是不是你的生日啊？
She says, "No,
So
I had a big bowel movement."
他说我这个红色的那一天呢，是我这个
I mean-
大便畅通的那一天。
It was a sign of triumph. It was a sign of accomplishment.
对，
Once a week, we should do it once a day.
他认为说他一个星期当中一天，他就把红色的标签起来，说是这一天他有一个很大的这个排便呢，对他来说好像是一个星期一天是很大的成果。我告诉你错的，应该是每一天都要有一次很大的这个肠胃的蠕动。
And with enough fiber and some water, no problem. Every day.
如果说你吃够多的这个纤维，你喝够多的水呢，你每天都应该是大便要畅通才对的。
This is what I want you to write down.
这个是我希望你能够写下来的事。
And by the
重
way,
要的
you
事
want to
情
bring your pencils or your pens every time with you, and you bring your binders every time that we meet here, Saturdays and Sundays, because there are some pages in the back that my good friend Terrence put in there for you, so you can take some notes. Here's something very, very important. You say, well, so the cholesterol is the most important part that drives this atherosclerosis, this narrowing of the artery disease. Yeah, that's right. And how important is it? Well, let me give you some example.
那么在这边就是要跟各位分享，就是有些事情你必须要写下来哈。如果你有笔的话，这个是很重要。那么你问说好像这个胆固醇是很重要的，那到底是什么事情重要呢？我希望你能够把这一点记下来，写下来。
Are you listening?
你可不可以把它记下
I
来？
know it's warm in here.
我这边好像有点热哈。
Should we turn the air conditioning on? Or are you okay?
你需不需要把冷气开强一点？还是
Are
可以
you？ okay?
可以吗？
Are you okay?
你可以吗？啊，
Some of you don't even respond to me anymore. Are you okay?
你好吗？你们都好吗？啊，
Listen,
你请听着啊，
for every 1% drop in your cholesterol in your bloodstream,
你知道在每一个你的抽的血当中的1%的这个血液里面啊，
for every 1% drop in your blood cholesterol, you lower your likelihood of a heart attack by 2.5%.
如果说你的血液里面的这个每1%的这个胆固醇每一下降1%呢，你就降低得到心脏病的机会呢，降低2.5倍。
Let me say it again.
在这边我要跟你讲啊，
For every 1% drop in your blood cholesterol, you lower your coronary risk by 2.5 times that amount.
就是说在你的血液里面呢，每一次你的这个胆固醇的比例下降1%的时候呢，你就降低你得到那个心脏病的机会2.5倍啊，这个是
Are you ready
很
for
好
an
的。
example?
要给你看一个这个例子吗？
So let's say your cholesterol is 200.
比方说你的胆固醇是200好了啦，
Doctor said it's normal.
这个医生说是你的胆固醇是正常的，
It's only normal for people that normally die from heart disease. Don't be normal.
但是我告诉你哈，这个是其实这个数字的所谓的那个标准呢是他们
Did you
医
hear me
生自己
okay?
讲的，但是不对的。
So you have a cholesterol of 200.
比方说你的胆固醇是200好了哈，
You do the jump start, and the next 2 or 3 weeks, very sincerely and authentically, you follow through what we're suggesting to you. You will drop your cholesterol in all likelihood from 200 to 150, which is ideal without any cholesterol.
我告诉你，就是您跟随我们2位女士所教导你的下一个星期的这个排毒来做哈，然后就是希望你能够把这个200的这个胆固醇降至到150，150是最好的。
Now listen, if your cholesterol is 200 and you lower it by 50 points, that's actually 1/4, isn't it? That's 25%.
如果说是你是本来200呢降低到150呢，你已经降低了25%以上了。
Are you with me?
你有没有在听啊？
You go from 200 to 150, that's 50 points out of 200, that's 1/4 down, that's 25%. So 25% drop in blood cholesterol times 2.5 times will give you the coronary risk reduction.
就说是你这个把这个胆固醇降低的越低呢，你给它算那个比例呢，你就可以知道说你的好像心脏进步多少。
So you bring your blood cholesterol down by 25% times, remember 2.5 times, that means you have lowered your coronary risk by 60%. You've cut your risk of a heart attack in half in 4 weeks.
就说是当你好像血液里面的这胆固醇能够降低到25%以后呢，你最后的得到比例就说是你可以降低60%的这个成为心脏病的风险，就说是你有1半的机会你不会再得到这个心脏病了。
And no cholesterol medication.
然后呢，就是这个胆固醇的药呢也不需要开给你，不需要。
So what's the relationship? The gentleman here, yeah, let me ask him. What's the relationship? For every 1% drop in blood cholesterol, we lower your coronary risk by how much? By 2.5 times.
我要问这边的一位先生，然后呢，如果说你降低任何一个比率的1%的，比方说你的胆固醇下降1%呢，你就降低得到这个心脏病的风险2.5倍。
If you're really serious about making some of the dietary changes over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, you will bring your cholesterol down by 20%.
如果说你这个下一个3个到4个星期当中呢，你把整个饮食做一个很大的改变呢，你会降低25%的这个胆固醇。
So 20% cholesterol lowering will bring down your coronary risk by how much? Times 2.5. 20% times 2.5 is 50%.
所以
You
如果
cut
说
it in half.
如果说你在下个3个到4个星期之间呢，你降低了你的这个胆固醇25%的话呢，你会降低得到这个心脏病的几率是降低60%。
Just in case you think I'm some kind of a new prophet that talks about this thing for the first time.
如果说你以为我是好像这个上帝所派来的先知，你是第一次听到这些内容。
I sat at the feet of this great man, Professor Stamler.
我告诉你呢，我很佩服这一位这个Stamler 这个博士啊。
He just celebrated his 100th birthday.
他刚刚庆祝他的100岁的生日。
In 1980, he came to Loma to speak at the university about the reversibility of heart disease, and that was 1980.
那他是在1980年代呢，就来到这个罗马琳达呢，为我们讲解关于这个心血管疾病的问题。
He talked about that nothing causes heart disease more than, he said, a rich diet, which is the primary, the essential and necessary cause of the current epidemic of premature atherosclerotic disease processes.
他当时在那个时候告诉我们呢，就说是所谓的一种高脂肪的，也就是丰富的饮食，就是指说高脂肪的饮食呢，这些就是主要造成当前流行的这个使人过早发生动脉糜样硬化症的这样的原因。
He gave this famous lecture at a national convention in 1958, and he said, cigarette smoking and hypertension don't really help us when it comes to heart disease, but they're only secondary and complementary causes. The primary cause is rich diet and high cholesterol.
那么呢，他跟我们讲说，这个在1978年的时候就跟我们讲说，这个抽烟或者是高血压呢，也是造成这个心脏病的原因，但是这些都是次要的原因。更重要的原因就是所谓的丰富的饮食，就是那种高脂肪的饮食，是造成这个心脏病的最主要的原因。
So, let me sort of re-emphasize and summarize why we are very, very careful about the use of animal products.
所以我要在这边就是跟各位讲一下，就是为什么我们对这个动物制的食品呢，有非常小心的一个这个过程。
And please don't have the idea that white meat is healthy.
请你不要认为好像所谓的白肉就比红肉更健康这种观念，不要这样子去想。
That's just marketing.
那个只是他们做生意的手段。
Chicken has as much cholesterol as you have in red meat.
你知道吗？这个鸡肉里面的胆固醇跟红肉里面的胆固醇是差不多一样多的。
And the way chickens are raised nowadays, where you have 150,000 chickens in cages, folks, this is totally unacceptable for human consumption.
你知道吗？就是还有就是这些养鸡的方法，就是所有的1000多只鸡都在这个鸡的笼子里面这样子养，然后一起杀光。我告诉你，这个不是那种最好的这个饮食的方法。
Why are we recommending to you to cut back on animal products and perhaps leave them out?
然后呢，为什么我要在这边跟你提到关于这个动物制的食品，这个肉类，然后就是不要再吃。
Number one, they're high-fat foods. Remember, 50 to 80% of the calories is fat.
这些食物呢，都是那个脂肪很高的。
They're the main source of saturated fat aside from coconut oil and palm oil.
他们这些都是那个除了好像这个椰子油之外呢，更高的脂肪的胆固醇的食物。
Now, cholesterol is not found in coconut oil or in palm oil, but it's only found in animal products. Animal products are the only source of cholesterol in the diet.
所谓的这个胆固醇呢，是在什么椰子油或者其他里面都是找不到的，唯有在动物的肉里面呢，才能够找到这个胆固醇。
Animal products have no fiber.
动物的这个肉呢，里面呢没有这个纤维。
Animal protein is carcinogenic. Is related to causing cancer, particularly colon cancer.
然后呢，这个动物制的这个肉，反正就是动物的肉呢，会造成这个癌症，是一种致癌物质。
And animal protein is one of the most important factors that drive osteoporosis or bone thinning disease.
就说是那个动物的这个肉会造成这个是骨质疏松的毛病。
It's not the calcium that you need to have strong bones.
不是说是因为你吃了很多那些什么钙片这样的这种药
And that's why you think you have to have your cheese and your ice cream and your milk. No.
不是说是吃这些有钙质的东西让你的骨骼能够强化，所以你必须要有借口可以喝牛奶，然后吃冰淇淋。不是的。
That's clever marketing.
这些都是他们那个做生意要促销要卖给你的方法。
The scientific facts are.
所谓的这个医疗的这个数据
The countries that consume the most dairy products have the highest rate of osteoporosis and bone fractures. Period.
我告诉你真正的数据就是说是一个国家呢，它如果说是消耗更多的乳制品的时候，那一个国家的这个骨质疏松症其实是最严重的。
And remember that lady that wrote about 150 years ago that perfect health depends on perfect circulation?
还记不记得我跟你介绍说，这位女士所讲的就是150年前讲说这个最完美的这个血液循环呢，就是能够促进健康的。
She also wrote this.
她也是这样子写的
I saw that many were sickly among the church members.
他说我看到教会成员当中有很多的人也生病了啊，
They had made themselves sick
他们
by indulging their appetite.
他们因为使自己放纵口欲，才会使自己变成这样子的生病。
We don't seem to understand
我们好像不明白，
that our appetites today are totally perverted after the dietary revolution of the 1970s swept over the country with high fat, high sugar, high salt foods.
我们都不明白说，好像这个1970年代以后，美国的整个这个食品工业呢，变成是那种这个高脂肪、高胆固醇，然后高甜这个糖食的这样的这些食物在影响我们。
She wrote, if we wish good health, we must take special care of our health that God has given us.
所以呢，如果说我们希望身体健康，就必须要特别去注意上帝所赐给我们的健康。
And then she says, deny the unhealthy appetite.
他说拒绝不健康的食欲。
She said that 150 years ago, eat less refined foods.
他150年前就讲这个事情，他说少吃那些精致的食物。
She called it coarse food, food with a lot of roughage, free from all grease.
他说我们必须要吃那些那种粗粮粗粮，就是那些不要有这些那个什么这个不含油的这些粗粮。
And that's what progressive scientists today in the nutritional sciences will tell us.
这些都是这个营养科学家今天会告我们一样讲的一样的话呢，都是在这里面。
If you want to be healthy, if you want to arrest and reverse some of these chronic diseases, eat more.
他如果说你真的是想要就是预防疾病的话，你应该其实要吃更多
Fresh fruit,
新鲜的水果、
vegetables,
蔬菜，
whole grains,
这个全麦，
lots of legumes,
很多的这些豆类，
and some nuts and seeds.
还有就是这个坚果类，还有就是这个种子，坚果类还有种子之类的。
That's the science of today.
这个都是今天的这些科学里面需要的。
Doesn't that sound what this lady wrote some 150 years ago when she talked about stay away from refined foods, eat more coarse food, free from grease, eat food that comes out of the hand of the master designer? Hello?
这些难道不是好像就是我们这位女士150年就已经跟我们讲的是不是一模一样的事情吗？拒绝这些不健康的食欲，少吃精致的食物，然后要吃不含油脂的这些粗粮，它不是讲的是一样的吗？
Now let me take you to Loma Linda.
让我带你来到我们这个罗马林的这个城市
I'm sure you know where Loma Linda is.
我相信你现在都知道说罗马林达是在哪里了
We're here in Loma Linda, the blue zone.
我们现在在这个罗马林达这个蓝
And
色
the blue
地
zone
带
is，characterized by having the most per capita centenarians.
我们讲说这个蓝色地带这个罗马林达呢，有很多的这个100岁以上的老人家。
They found out that there are more people over 100 years of age or close to that here in Loma Linda than anywhere else in America.
他们发现就说是在罗马林达这个地方的100岁以上的人的数字呢，是比美国任何其他地方都还要更多的。
People in Loma Linda are the longevity stars in America.
美国的这个罗马林达这个城市呢，是100多岁的寿星所住的最多的地方。
And so all you have to do is move to Loma Linda and you live a long, long life.
难道就是那你最简单的方法就是你搬到罗马林达，你就可以有一个过着长寿的生活，是这样子吗？
Quickly make an appointment with the real estate people and get yourself a house in Loma Linda and you live a long life.
赶快就是把你的房子卖了以后，找一个就是房地产公司来这边买房子，你就可以有这个长寿。
Actually, it's not the fact that it's a geographic area.
我告诉你了，事实上呢，不是因为是这一个罗马林达这个地理的位置。
When they talk about Loma Linda, they talk about Adventist lifestyle.
他们讲这个罗马林达呢，其实是讲说是这个教派安息日会的教友的他们的健康的生活方式。
No matter where you go in the world, you will always find Adventists living the longest life of any population.
不管你到全世界什么地方去，你都会找到就是安息日会的人，他们所过的最长的、最健康的一些生活方式。
You go to Poland,
你到这个
you
波
go
兰
to，Holland,
到荷兰，
you go to China,
到中国，
you go to any country in the world, Adventists are the longest living people. Why?
你到全世界各个地方呢，都是安息日会的人是活得最长命的。为什么呢？
Could it be that they paid attention to what this lady wrote some 150 years ago?
有没有可能是因为这些人他们所遵守呢？这位女士所讲150多年前的内容呢？
Who said, eat more simple foods as they come out of the hand of the master designer?
他们讲说，是不是应该要吃简单的一些饮食，是上帝所创造的这个饮食啊？
Get into an exercise program.
好好的这个运动啊，
Get some sunshine. Get some rest.
要得到一些好好的阳光，然后好好的休息，
Drink lots of water.
喝很多的水，
Treat your spouse well.
对你的这个伴侣好一点啊，
And trust in God.
然后就是信靠上帝。
But nothing was more important to those early pioneers than a simple diet and daily exercise.
但是呢，更重要的呢，就是更简单的健康的饮食，然后就是每一天都好好的运动。
And so there are about 5 areas in the world where they have the most centenarians.
所以这边讲到说有5个地带哈，就是全世界就是有最多的这些100岁的这个人端啊，100岁的人这个长命的。
The Adventists, the people in Sardinia near that's part of Italy, and the people in Okinawa in Japan.
还有就是在美国的罗马琳达的安息日会的人员，还有就是意大利的萨蒂纳，还有就是那个什么日本的这个冲绳岛那边的人。
And what do these people have in common?
那他们有什么事情是共通的呢？
They're family oriented, no smoking,
那么这些人有哪些共同点呢？他们以家庭为中心，然后就是不抽烟啊，
plant-based diet,
以植物性的饮食为主的哈。
moderate activity,
他们会有这个更多的适当的运动，
social engagement,
就是积极的参加社会的服务
and。lots of beans.
他们吃很多的豆类啊。
And then the Adventists are unique in that they're probably eating more nuts than anybody else. And in Sardinia, they eat more flava beans, and they have a little bit of wine there. In Okinawa, they they live a very relaxed life. There's no time urgency. That seems to be a characteristic
当
for
然，
that
这
area.
3组不同的人当中都有一些不同。比方说，这个安息日会的人呢，他们除了这些之外，还有这个健康的人的社交圈子啦，吃坚果类的食物啦。那么意大利人呢，他们就好像吃一些蚕豆，他们喝一点点酒。还有就是冲绳岛的日本人，他们就是没有这个时间的观念，这个不会紧张这样子的哈。
Please note what they have in common is whole grains and soy and no alcohol.
但是呢，
by
这
and
个
large.
3组人当中呢，所有他们有这些共同的重叠的事情，就是说什么呢？吃全麦五谷糙米，还有就说是他们吃黄豆啊。
You may recall Dr. Ellsworth Wareham.
也许你记得这个Ellsworth Wareham 医生哈，
He was still doing bypass surgery at the age of 95 in Los Angeles.
你知道他在95岁的时候他还在帮人家就是做这个心脏搭桥的手术。
Traveling 3 times a week from Loma Linda to Los Angeles, facing the Los Angeles traffic without any bumping of his car in some 15, 20 years.
At the age of 95。
In 85, yeah.
就是他95岁的时候，还从这个罗马琳达呢开车经过这个10号的这个高速公路的塞车呢，到洛杉矶去给人家动手术哈，1个星期去3次哈，到那个95岁还在做这个执刀的医生。
When he was 100 years of age,
当他100岁的时
I
候，
interviewed him at a national health convention.
就是在100岁的时候，他在这个国家这个健康这个什么就是学术会议的时候呢，他们邀请他去，然后就是访问他。
And he said, well, I read some of these books by this elderly lady years ago.
那他就说我读了好像这个100多年前一位女士
Simple
所写
foods,
简单的饮食，
enjoying life,
就是享受自己的生命，
having a purpose and mission in life.
就是要生命当中要有一些目的。
And he said, I just enjoyed
我就是很高兴、很喜乐过我的
doing
生
what I
活
was。doing till I was 95.
这个是他95岁的时候，接受访问的时候回答的。
And I said, and then?
然后呢
Oh, he said, I got a new boss.
？I'm sorry。
Then I got a new boss.
他说我有一个新的老板啊。
I said, oh, you mean your wife?
他说你谁是你的老板呢？就是你的太太。我们刚刚讲到是这个是右边那位哈，就右边那位那个Wareham 医生哈。右
And
边
he
那位
said, no, every morning he had a honey-do list.
他说我有一个我的太太呢，我每一天早上起来，我会有100多个事情她要我做的。
You know, he passed away 2 years ago at the age of 104.
你知道吗？他那个是2年前哈，这个最右边这位这个 Ellsworth 医生，他2年前是104岁而去世。
Some of you may remember Marge Jetton.
你还记不记得是中间这位女士，这个 Marge Jetton 哈？
She was 104.
她当时也是104岁。
When the National Geographic reporter came to interview her,
那个美国的国家地理杂志在她104岁的时候要来访问她，
and he made an interview with her,
他们就成功的访问她了。
and he said, "Why don't you meet me in the garage? I'll pick you up in my car. It's a pink Cadillac."
他说因为他说我很忙，我没时间哦，我跟你在我家车库门口见面。然后他就开那个凯迪拉克的轿车，
104 years of age,
他104岁开车，
new pink Cadillac.
他还有买了新的粉红色的凯迪拉克。
The reporter wonders how safe it is to get into this car with this elderly lady.
然后这个新闻记者很担心，说坐在这样100岁的这个女士的旁边，这个车子安不安全呢？
And before you know it, she's tearing down the road,
那当他知道说他已经是在那边超车了，
exceeding the speed limit,
他就是超越这个车速。
and he's becoming instantaneously a man of prayer.
然后这个记者就好像在担心的开始要祷告。
And he said, "Tell me, Marge, why do you rush so much? Why do you drive so fast?"
然后他就问那个马吉女士说：“你为什么要开这么快的车啊？”
She said, "I'm 104 years of age. I have volunteer service to do. I don't have much time left. Please, let's get going."
他说：“我是100多岁，但是我在做义工，我还有很多事情想做完哈，我没有时间啊，让我去把这些义工的工作给做完吧。”
That's the Loma Linda spirit.
这个就是罗马琳达的这个精神啊。
So what is it about the Loma Linda spirit and lifestyle that is so health promotive and longevity extending?
所以为什么这个罗马琳达的这个生活方式啊，会造成这么样的这个长寿啊？
Well, of course, this is a new medical center here in Loma Linda.
这个
This
是
is
我们的这
also
个，
the center of the Adventist Health Studies.
这是我们这个罗马琳达医院的新的医院哈。我们这边也有这个关于这个富林信徒的健康研究。
Where researchers have followed Adventists since 1958.
我们是有一批这个外面的人研究关于这个安息日会的信徒的健康，是从1958年开始研究的。
There are two major studies.
有2个这个重要的研究。
The first study was published in 1985.
第一个研究是这个1985年所刊出来的哈，
Comparing Adventists with Californian people in
是
general.
把这个安息日会的信徒跟其他的加州的居民、一般的普通的居民做一个研究。
And they found that the mid-Advent Adventists only had 64% of the likelihood of developing fetal heart disease.
他说，他们发现说，在安息日会里头有吃肉的人呢，他们的这个寿命的比率呢，是比那个一般的这个加州的居民呢还要再好，就是
Let
64%。
me ask you this. Why do you think these meat-eating Adventists, and as you know, about 50% of the Adventists are meat eaters here in North America.
我告诉您哈，就是事实上就是安息日会里头呢，有50%的人是50%的人是吃肉的，有50%是不
Why
吃
are
的。
these meat-eating Adventists somewhat protected from fatal heart disease when compared to Californian meat eaters?
比方说这个加州的居民，他们得到心脏病的几率是100%的话，
Help me.
这个安息日会的居民，他们得到心脏病的几率只有60%，是为什么？你
No smoking.
So-
Smoking promotes heart disease, right? So Adventists have an advantage there, right? Right?
然后说为什么他们的得到心脏病的几率比那个加州的一般的居民还要低呢？那刚刚姐妹回答就说是因为安息日会的人不抽烟，因为不抽烟。
But then they compared the meat-eating Adventists with the lacto-ovo-eating Adventists.
那么呢，他们又把这些这个吃肉的安息日会的人跟那个不吃肉，但是呢加上蛋奶食品的安息日会的人做一个比较。
They would not eat meat, but they would eat dairy products and eggs. These are the lacto-ovo-vegetarians.
他们不吃肉，但是他们加上这个蛋奶还有就是鸡蛋跟牛奶这样的这个安息日会信徒。
And then they compared them to the Adventists that were pure vegetarians.
然后他们又再跟那些安息日会的人比较，是纯是吃素的，完全只吃素的安息日会信徒。
Now look at the results.
你看一看他们的结果，
Who had the best results?
什么样是最好的结果？
What color?
什么颜色是最好的？
Are you there?
怎么样？有没有在听
Green.
绿色的
Vegetarians, right?
绿色的。
So meat eaters had 3 times more fatal heart disease among the Adventists than the Adventists that were pure vegetarians, and the lacto-vegetarians were in between.
就说是有在吃肉的安息日会呢，他们得到心脏病的比率呢，是比那个纯吃素的安息日会、绿色的安息日会这个安息日会信徒呢高3倍左右。那么饮食当中有加上鸡蛋跟牛奶呢，他们是在中间。
So 20 years later, the government comes to Loma and says, "Can you do another big study?"
所以20年以后呢，这个政府又来找安息日会的说，你们可不可以再做更好的这个研究调查？
Can you enroll about 100,000 Adventists in a study and follow them for 7 years and see who lives the longest?
你们可不可以找这个10万个安息日会的人，然后就是跟随他们70 years，
And yeah,
70 years， 他们跟随他们跟踪他们
7 years.
跟踪他们7年左右，看一看他们的这个生活的健康的状况啊。
And they said,
所以他们
"We
就说，
know
那他们就说
that Adventists that are lacto-vegetarians only have half the amount of high blood pressure, they only have the amount of arthritis, they only have about 2/3 the amount of prostate cancer, and they only have half the amount of colon cancer. We know this, that Adventists that are lacto-vegetarians are better off than meat-eating Adventists, right?
就说
Are you with me there?
我们知道就说是所谓的就是有吃肉的安息日会，就是不吃肉，但是有加上那个吃鸡蛋跟喝牛奶的安息日会的呢，他们还是比那个没有吃肉的还更健康，这个数字是没有错的，对不对？
So chronic diseases, the Adventist meat-eaters are high, the lacto-vegetarians are lower, and then you have the vegan way down.
就说所有的安息日会的人，就说是在安息日会当中呢，吃肉的人得到这些慢性疾病的几率的最高不吃肉，但是加上鸡蛋牛奶的是一半。 然后就是说，还有就是那些全素的人是最低的。
So they enrolled 100,000 Adventists in North America.
所以他们就在美国北美这边呢是找了这个10万个安息日会的信徒
And they found that 10% of the Adventists are vegetarians.
他们就发现这10万个人当中呢，10%的安息日会的人是吃纯吃素的。
30% of the Adventists are lacto-ovo-vegetarians.
30%的这个安息日会的人是这个吃素加上蛋、鸡蛋跟牛奶。
10% are fish vegetarians.
10%的安息日会是再加上吃鱼肉的这
And
个。
50% are carnivorous people. They're eating animal products.
然后就差不多有50%的人呢，他们是这个吃肉的这个安息日会信徒。
And then the researchers followed these people for 7 years and enumerated the numbers of deaths, the number of diabetics, the number of high blood pressure people, the number that developed high cholesterol, and so on.
所以就是他们跟踪这些10万个人的7年，看看多少人生某一些疾病，看看多少人得到这个慢性病，看看多少人得到这个心脏方面的疾病、心血管方面的疾病等等啊。
Are you interested in the answers?
你想不想知道这个答案呢？
Or rather not?
还是不想知道？
Because once you know the answer, you're under obligation to do something about it.
因为呢，我现在问你说你想不想知道答案？当你一旦知道答案的话呢，我就是要你就说会做一些决定。
You really want to know?
你想不想知道呢？
Let me see your hand.
让我看一看你的眼。
Okay, I want to see if you're
手
awake. Yeah.
想知道的话，
Okay, let's take a look.
那我们来看一看。
These are people. The red bar are the meat-eating Adventists.
这个
The green ones are the Adventist vegetarians.
红色的部分就是吃肉的安息日会教友，最下面这个绿色的呢，就是吃全素的这个安息日会教友。
You see, the Adventists that are meat eaters have 6.3% are diabetics. The vegetarians only 1.6%. The difference is 4 times more diabetes in the meat-eating Adventists.
在所有的这个安息日会信徒里头呢，有得到糖尿病的这个10万个人当中，得到糖尿病的人的几率呢，吃肉的人是高过于6.3倍，然后呢，这个吃全素的人只有1.6倍，所以差不多高4倍。
When you look more closely at these different food groups, you begin to realize that the closer they move towards a vegetarian diet, the less diabetes they have to worry about.
然后你看一看，就是所有的这些饮食的人当中呢，这个吃全素的人，他们就是几乎是可以不要去担心说他们会得到糖尿病。
You see the same stepwise decline when it comes to high blood pressure. The red bar, these are the Adventist meat eaters, have about 4 times more high blood pressure problems than the vegetarians.
然后这个是关于这个他们好像这个高血压哈，那么吃肉的这个安息日会的成员呢，他们可能比较需要担心他们的高血压；吃全素的人呢，是几乎不需要担心他们高血压的问题。
And Adventists that are treated for high cholesterol numbers are 5 times more commonly found in the meat eaters when compared to the vegetarians.
然后呢，就是所有的这个饮食状况，还有就是高胆固醇的方向比较起来的话呢， 吃全素的人，他们不需要担心胆固醇，但是吃肉的按息智慧信徒高胆固醇呢是4倍以上。
As to summarize all of these epidemiological and scientific findings, we can come to one conclusion, and that is this.
所以在所有的这些事情上，我们做完这个比较之后呢，我们有一个结论啊。
Probably 70% of the stroke is totally preventable if we made some lifestyle choices, better choices.
可以说是70%以上的人的这个胆固醇的疾病呢，对不起，中风的这个疾病呢，都可以是预防。只要是你把你的生活习惯改。
71% of cancer is totally avoidable.
71%以上的这个癌症呢，也都可以避免。
I met a few months ago a lovely, lovely lady, young lady.
几个月前，我遇到一位这个很可爱的一位女士。
Serious breast cancer.
她有这个乳癌。
Major treatment was needed.
然后呢，她呢需要做一个很严重的这个一个治疗。
71% of that breast cancer could have been avoided if this lady would have known or would have done something about it.
你知道吗？她的这个癌症呢，71%都有可能可以避免掉。她如果很早就知道可以改变她的生活习惯的话就好了。
82% of heart disease could have been avoided if people would have made some significant lifestyle changes.
如果说很多人就是很早就能够做好他的生活方式的改变的话，82%的心脏病的呢都可以被预防，或者是可以避免。
And let me be very, very clear. Just be a vegetarian doesn't really protect you from heart disease.
我跟你讲得很清楚，就是不要说是因为只是你成为一个吃素的人，你就可以避免心脏病。
Not even being a very strict vegetarian like a vegan protects from heart disease.
也不是说是你完完全全吃一个就是很严肃的一个吃素的人呢，很严格的吃素的人，你就可以避免心脏病。
You can have fatty foods.
你还是可以吃
You can
很
have
多一些
M&Ms.
这些好像那个
You can have dark chocolate.
你也可能会吃一些什么高脂肪的饮食，比方说好像那个甜度很高的一些什么黑色的巧
5
克
soda
力，
pops.
还有一些什么喝一些那些什么那个汽
And you
水。
say, look, I'm a vegan.
你讲说我是吃全素的。
Veganism is not protecting you from heart disease unless you really begin to pick out a more holistic lifestyle in how we eat and how we live and how we move among other people.
不要说是只是因为好像改变成为这个吃全素，而你还要吃很多一些其他的一些杂七杂八的零食，不是？您应该要就是看整体的这个一个全人健康的一个计划，全部都理解了之后呢，改变生活习惯呢，才有可能能够造成。
And 91% of all the type 2 diabetes could be totally avoided if people would make some lifestyle changes.
那么呢，另外就是第二类型的糖尿病呢，可能差不多91%的人呢都可以避免。如果说你很严格的改變你的这个生活习惯之后。
I talked to a friend this morning.
我今天早上跟一位朋友讲了。
I said, are you concerned about your pre-diabetes?
我说你是不是对你的好像这
This is
个
the first stage towards developing diabetes.
这个是糖尿病，还要变成糖尿病的前兆这个前期这个你是不是担心你的好像糖尿病会变得是再进一步
And he was kind of nonchalant about it. Well, he said,
他好像跟我就是回
probably
答
runs
的
in the
很暧昧。
family. My father had it, so what can you do?
他说我的好像就是家人也有这个糖尿病，我该怎么办呢？
Ladies and gentlemen, type 2 diabetes is not something that is genetically determined. DNA does not determine our future.
我告诉您这个糖尿病并不是说是因为你上一代的遗传这些问题我们的这个 DNA 呢不能够决定我们的将来。
We're not just transferring our genes from one generation to the next. We're also transferring the lifestyle and the diet of the parents to the children.
我告诉你，我们不是说是因为上一代的基因遗传给我们。我告诉你，其实是上一代的饮食习惯还有他们的生活方式，把他们的文化呢传给您，造成您今天的生活方法跟饮食习
Just
惯。
because your parents or grandparents had some genetic problem, or we think they had diabetes or obesity or heart disease, that doesn't mean you have to have it. It probably runs much more closely to relate to the kind of diet that was practiced from one generation to the next.
所以说不是说是因为你有上一代的人传给你的遗传这个基因，而不是 应该说是你上一代的人他们的饮食习惯怎么样呢？把那些饮食习惯传给您，影响到你的饮食习惯。
And next week I will show you that through the concept of epigenetics, you can actually turn off the genes that are otherwise marking you for a certain disease. You can turn them off by the diet and the lifestyle that you practice.
另外，下个礼拜我要跟你讲，就是就算你有这个你的父母亲所给你的这些基因呢，你可以完全把这个基因给改变掉，因为你的饮食的习惯。
In closing,
在最后要结束的时候，
you can get your papers ready now.
你这边你可以写下来，如果你
You
要
can
写
open
的
the
话。
envelope.
Yeah.
Experts estimate that up to 80% of chronic disease and premature death in this country could be prevented and by making significant change in diet and lifestyle. And here's the top man from Harvard, Dr. Willett. He said, we have known this for a long time, that the major determinants of our killer disease are dietary and lifestyle factors.
所以呢，我刚刚要讲，就说是专家就讲说是美国呢有多达80%的慢性病跟过早死亡都可以通过饮食和生活方式的重大改变来预防。那么刚刚讲的这位医生所说呢，流行病学专家早就知道说，我们成为疾病的主要原因呢，是在乎于饮食跟生活方式的因素。
Let me guess what you're thinking right now.
我要在这边猜一猜，说你们心里面在想的事情。
You're thinking, well,
你在想，也许你在想说，我
kind of
要
a nice idea
这些都是好的这个意见
that you can prevent disease.
可以这个预防疾病。
I already have overweight. I already have high blood pressure. I already have diabetes. I already have heart disease. It's too late for me.
我已经是这个体重超重了，我已经是有这个高血压、高胆固醇，我已经好像有这个心脏病了，我这些都已经早就有了，我大概没有办法了，我是没办法的。
Here's my question for you.
在这边我是有一个问题要问您，
What would happen
如果你这样子
if
做的
we
话，
would apply these preventive strategies that we talked about that could prevent 80% of these diseases and apply it to existing disease? Could we arrest and reverse these diseases?
我告诉您说，如果说你现在既有的这些疾病呢，我现在所跟你讲的这些内容，你照着方式去做的话，你的80%以上的病呢都能够逆转，能够好起来。我现在跟你这样子讲的话。
Could we cure these incurable chronic diseases by making simple lifestyle changes of how we eat, how we drink, how do we handle stress, do we get enough sleep, are we nice to our spouses and to our friends and colleagues? Could we possibly arrest and reverse these diseases? I will give you the scientific answers tomorrow.
那么呢，
Tomorrow at 2
当我
o'clock.
们就是照着这个美好的这个饮食跟好像就是生活的习惯来改变这些不同的生活方式的时候，我们也对我们的家人、我们的朋友、对我们的伴侣好一点的时候呢，我们是不是真的是能够做得到？我要给你这个科学的数据，明天我要给你这个科学的数据，到底能不能够做得到？
Now, before you really look at your results, please look at this slide here.
在你还没有打开信封看你自己的这个量血的抽血的检查之前，你可以看一看这个哈。
I have marked
在这边我有做一些记
with a
号，
circle
有一个画一个圈圈。
if you're underweight, because that means you're 10% below of what you should be.
比方说，如果说是你是体重过轻，就是你的你是比
If
你的
you're overweight and it's circled with this, then that means you're 10% or more above what you should be.
那么呢，如果说是你是在体重过重的地方被我就是画一个圈圈的话呢，就表示说是你是比
If
你
you're
应该
If
你的
you're
体重还要
20% above your ideal weight, then you're obese.
如果说是你是超出这个20%以上的这个你的理想的体重，那等于表示说是你是超重了。
So remember,
所以记得哈，
just what Terence already mentioned to you earlier, it makes a lot of difference the kind of words that I'm using in the evaluation. When I call you overweight, that means you're 10% to 20% above your ideal weight. If I say obese, that means you're at least 20% and more above the
那
ideal
么呢
weight.，
如果说我上面在讲说是你是过重的话呢，是表示说是你是超越10%到20%的体重。但是如果说你是超越超肥，我用不同的这个字在里面讲。
And now some of you will be arguing with me and you say, well, I'm not really obese. Well, you cannot argue with numbers, I'm sorry.
如果说有些人你要来跟我辩你的数字，哎呀，我没有这个过度的过重体重过重过度肥胖没有啊，我告诉你，数字是不会说话。
That's why we checked your height and that's why we also checked your bone size.
我告诉你，你的数字呢不会说谎的，因为我们量了你的体重，我们量你的身高，还有我们量了你的骨头的密度。
So these weight ranges that we put down, Terrence and I, refer to gender-specific, height-specific, and bone size-specific aspects.
那么我们量这些根据不同的性别还有就是年龄，还有就是根据你的骨头的密度呢，给做这个区分啊。
Then not everybody knows what diabetes really stands for, right?
有许多的人好像对于这个糖尿病搞不好也是没有完全清楚的一个看法。
You know the blood sugar is high, right?
你知道说好像这个血糖是高的哈。
Diabetes by definition means that you're above 125 points.
所谓的这个糖尿病，就是你是超过125点以上的，这就是糖尿病。
If you're under 100, you're basically ideal.
如果说是你是100以下的呢，你是理想的。
If you're between 100 and 125,
如果你是在100到125之间，
then you're called a pre-diabetic. That means you are on your way to becoming a diabetic within the next 3 to 4 years.
就说是，如果说你是100到125之间，你是前糖尿病，也就是糖尿病之前的预兆。意思就是你将来的3到4年之内呢，有可能你是发展成这个糖尿病。
And the same thing with
还有
blood pressures.
还有就是跟你的这个血压也有关系哈。
When your blood pressure is above 140 and over 90, I usually put down hypertension. You probably should do something about your blood pressure
如
for
果你的这个
sure.
血压呢是104到109这个9之间的话，你是算是那种高血压啊。
It's very high, like it's 190 over 120. I usually put down see a physician. Otherwise, all you have to do is make some lifestyle changes. Get that salt down.
如果说是你的
Get
血
into
压
daily
是，
walking program.
如果说你的血压是高过109到120，已经太高了呢，我在上面会写说你应该自己马上去看医生。否则，如果是你不是那么高的数据，那你就在那个109以下的话呢，你就应该赶快开始去做运动。
Be a nice, peace-loving person.
成为一个就是又亲切和蔼可爱的人，
And your blood pressures will go down
你的这个血压就会降低下来啊。
in 3 to 4 weeks in most cases.
3到4个星期之间就能够解决。
And then now comes the last one, that's the cholesterol, right?
还有就是最后有这个关于这个胆固醇哈，
You have to pay some really close attention to this.
那这个胆固醇也必须要花很多时间来看。
What does your doctor tell you is a normal cholesterol? What does the
什么
laboratory tell you?
你的这个
Okay, now, if I can borrow this one from you.
我跟你
You
借一下
take
这
a
个
look
纸张。
at this sheet here, the ABC.
对不
That's
起，
the
我刚
laboratory sheet.
我
You all
刚
have this?
你看有没有这张里面哈？那么呢，你
Please say yes.
你的
You all
你
have this?
你的医生如果讲说你的胆固醇是200以下是200还算正常，但是其实不是还不
Down
够。
below it says, guidelines for cholesterol, desirable is under 200.
这边上面写说，好像这个所谓的这个胆固醇呢，指标理想的指标是200。
When you look at our evaluations, please take a look at my slide.
但是
Ideal is 100 plus your age.
我们这边你看这个绿
So
色的
if
哈，
you
对
are
不起
50 years of age, that should be about 150. That would be ideal. If you're 80 years of age and you have 180, I'm not going to say anything to you. You're doing okay at 80 years of age. If you're 106 and you have 206, I'm not going to say anything about this. But folks, when you are under 50, you want to really keep it down to the less than 150 points.
那么
If
呢
you're 20 years of age, it should be 120.
OK let me translate this part。那么呢，刚刚就是给您看，就是好像这个左手边，你看上面下面写一个 total cholesterol， 就是您的胆固醇哈。你看那个绿色的这边写个 ideal， 就是说是理想的指标，100加上您的岁数。所以比方说您是55岁的，你这个100加上你的这个55岁呢，就是155岁，就等于是你的胆固醇的理想的指标。那如果说那个超过155就不好，这样子，就是你的岁数再加上那个100，就是你的理想的胆固醇的指标。
If you have your pencil ready and your pen, I'm going to read this. I leave this here for you so you can write it down. Ideal, elevated, high, very high and dangerous. These are the numbers that you want to write down for total cholesterol.
好，那么我翻译一下这一段哈，就是说绿色呢是指说你的那个胆固醇的指标是你的年龄再加上100，对不对？那么你的比较偏高的胆固醇 elevated 是161到180， 胆固醇很高胆固醇高呢是指180到220是高的，非常高是胆固醇非常高221到260，然后危险后面最下面那个红色是危险，是指说你的胆固醇超过260，你是属于非常危险的这样子的一个数字，您看到了吗
？And we have similar categories for LDL cholesterol, which is really the dangerous cholesterol, which is probably even more important than the total cholesterol. So pay attention to the LDL cholesterol. Ideal, elevated, high, very high, dangerously high.
那另外这边你看到就是第二个这个 LDL 就是指这个低密度胆固醇。那低密度胆固醇呢，你的理想呢应该是90，或者是比90还要低，偏高91到110，高的呢110到150，然后就是非常高151到190，危险的是超过190。
So if I mark down dangerous, there's a little box that says dangerous or very high LDL. That probably means that you have had an LDL of less than about 151 to over 190. So you can really read off the designations on the left-hand side here that are marked for you on your sheet that refers to these numbers here. HDL, we don't want you to worry too much about this. We'll talk about some other time. The most important thing is the LDL cholesterol.
那么呢就说是如果说你看到我用铅笔呢，在你的那个数据上就是圈出来，你就必须要小心了。总而言之呢，另外这个高密度胆固醇 HDL 我不愿意太花时间太多讲这个，最危险的就是你必须要注意你的这个血液里面的低密度胆固醇。
Okay, I will bring it back up again in case you haven't copied it down yet. I just want to spend the last 5 minutes of my time to go over this with you.
然后呢，就是这个是您的这个血液检查结果，这个我要花最后的5分钟给您看一下哈。
These are your lifestyle evaluations, right?
这个是你的这个你的这个好像就是生活习惯的这个就说是你的好像这个指标哈，生活习惯的。
Terrence and I have worked on those. They're very highly personalized.
那么呢这个郑文峰长老呢已经花了不少时间在你的上面呢做了一些研究啊。
Unfortunately, many of you did not fill these forms in very, what should I say, completely.
那么呢，有很多的这个你们呢没有把这个你的这个生活习惯的数字呢写进去里面。
Which makes it more difficult to give you the personalized attention.
那这样的话就很难能够把你的这个数据呢就是解读。
Many of you forgot to fill out the medication form on the back side of your sheet.
就很多人就是你们在那个你的背后呢，就是你吃什么药呢？你现在有在吃什么药？这个也没有写进去里面。
And if I may recommend this, next time when we do it in 4 weeks ago, I would like you to really fill out every space on the sheet, every space. If you don't use anything, put down 0. But you need to fill every space out. We didn't explain that very well, perhaps. And when you have your medication, there's a small sheet on the back side. Be sure you fill this in, everything you do. It might actually be best if you go home and when you come back next time, you bring your medications with you and we can help you to fill in these forms.
就说是这个纸张上面后面呢，应该把您的这个所服的药呢，都全部都填进去，所以每一个空格里面，您大家都要写下去。如果说没有写，如果说没有这个服药，你也必须要写一个0这个数字。
Now, do you see this form here?
这边是你可以看到这些例子。
This belongs to one of you folks here.
这个是你们其中一位的这个。
See, whenever you see a circle there, that means maybe you should cut back on this. You see the circles here?
你看到就是我这边有圈这个用笔这样做一个打圈的哈。
Then you see here the amount of weight.
那这边是好像关于这个体重。
It's circle. That means maybe you need to do something about this. You have to reduce it.
也许就是说这边体重就是讲说你必须要就是减轻
And
体
further
重。
down here you see, what is this one now here? Is that cholesterol or glucose, the first one? What is it? Glucose? Okay, so if that glucose is circled, that probably means you're probably at an elevated risk or you're already a diabetic and you need to do something about this. So anytime you see something circled, it means we need to do something about it.
所以你看到就是每一次你看到就是你的纸张上面有我给你用笔圈出来的这个数字呢，就表示说是你这个方面有些问题的，你必须要去改善。
And then here on the right-hand side, you see I have marked certain things. This person is on cholesterol medication, so it doesn't make any sense for me to mark this because the medication overrides what you would have otherwise have accomplished.
然后就是你看到这个我这右边呢，因为这个人呢他是有服用这个胆固醇的药物，那如果说你已经是有服用胆固醇药物的话呢，我就没办法能够对你做任何这个建议。为什么呢？因为你的这个药物呢已经是控制了你的数据，你的这个数据是不准的。
If you are taking cholesterol-lowering medication to prevent a heart attack, it is useless.
我告诉你，如果是您服用这个降低胆固醇的药来就是预防你得到心脏病呢，这个事实上是没有用的。
Let me look
毫无
into the
意义。
camera so that everybody sees it. When you are using cholesterol medication and you're trying to prevent a heart attack, it is basically not effective. It brings down the cholesterol, but it does not protect the heart. It just gives you the artificial assurance that is not very well founded that you are lowering your heart disease. It brings your cholesterol down, but it doesn't protect your heart. The only way to reduce your risk for a heart attack is by lowering through diet. Diet makes all the difference, not the medication.
那么呢，这边我们对着这个摄影机把这个话讲得清楚一点哈。如果说你在网络上有在看我们的这个现场直播，您这个有服用这些胆固醇的药物，你想用靠着这个服用胆固醇的药物来降低你的胆固醇，使你不会发生这个心脏病的几率，事实上这个是毫无益处的，没有帮助。唯一的这个方法呢，就是你改善你的饮食。
It puts you into a false sense of security.
因为这些都是一种假的，这个是假的一种假的现象。
However, if you had a heart attack
但如果说是您是有这个心脏病的发生啊，
and you take this powerful cholesterol-lowering medication, it does help you to lower the risk for a second heart attack. But to prevent the initial heart attack, it is basically of no real effectiveness.
就是说，
We'll talk about that tomorrow.
如果说你已经有得到过第一次的心脏病，那么你为了要预防得到第二次的心脏病呢，你服用那个降低胆固醇那个药物呢，它能够帮你缓和一些，但是不是真正的能够帮助您。那么这个事情我明天会再详细的讲解。
I mean, look, many of you folks are on many medications. This person is on 5 medications and some other supplements.
你知道吗？很多人，我们当中有很多人是有服药的。你知道这个先生，他这张表上面的呢，他服用5个，他用这五种以上不同的药物呢，而且还吃很多一些其他的那个这个维他命之类的这些这个营养剂哈。
You could do much more for yourself if you would really make the dietary changes, as I circled here on this person already. You see all the circles here? See this?
然后我跟你
There's a
讲
lot that we can do ourselves that may not actually call for any medication use.
就说是您看到这个人呢，他是被我用这个笔哈圈出这么多这些不同的事情，表示说是你这很多东西呢都需要改善。那你这些东西都是一直靠着药物呢，是帮助你是帮助不大的，没办法能够帮助，除非你完全改善你的这个生活饮食习惯。
So that's what many of the folks here actually, what they look like, their lifestyle evaluations. But there are also some like this one here.
所以有很多的人呢，好像能够希望改善他的生活呢，就你看这个是其中一个这个样品啊。
What do you see here?
你看到这边样品。
56 glasses of water a week. Now that's good. And then 0, that's an ideal diet. That's food as it comes out of the hand of the master designer. And then please take a look here. There's very few circles here. You see, it's perfect, ideal. Then I put down here, teach others, because I recommend here, what program should you go to? Should you go to a weight program, or to a cholesterol program, or to a blood pressure program, or an exercise program? And I put down, teach other people, because you have the ideal model that you can give to other people.
这位先生或者是女士里头的很多些数据，比方说吃那些健康的这个天然的这个蔬菜水果有这个纤维的，它很多这些数字它写是0.00000都是没有的。然后他服用其他药物呢，服用很多不同的药物，然后最后他说我该怎么办呢？我就给他上面写一个建议说，你应该去教导别人怎么去过一个健康的生活。这个是我写给这一位这个先生或者是女士的他的这个抽血之后的检查报告。
Now, are there some special questions that are of a general nature Otherwise, I'll be very happy to stay behind for half an hour and talk to some of you individually if you want to talk to me or to some of our physicians that are here.
那如果说您还有什么其他个人的问题的话呢，等一下散会之后，我愿意在这边就是待在这边半个小时，你可以个人的来找我来问一些问题，我可以回答给您啊。还有我们这边还有一些其他的医生也在这边呢，就是可以帮忙回答问题的。
Let me summarize once more.
我要在这边就是再一次就是简单的扼要的把这个内容讲完。
These are personalized clinical prescriptions that I've given you. These are the best recommendation that I think anybody can give you to give you the opportunity of reversing, arresting, and preventing these modern diseases.
就是这些我
Take them very seriously.
我这些给你个人的一些建议呢，就说是你必须要就是很严肃的来面对这个事情，来改善你的生活方面的这个饮食啦、运动啦、休息啦等等。
Pay attention to anything that I've circled.
那就是注意，就是我在你的纸张上面所画的这个用笔
And I
圈
usually
出来
have
的。
given you a range of how much weight perhaps might be ideal for some of you to lose.
然后就是这边有一些这个数据呢，会让你去显示出来你要怎么个去学会这些。
I usually give a range,
那通常我会给一
like
个
from 10 to 15 pounds or from 25 to 30 pounds.
我通常会给一个好像就是建议，比方说10到15磅啦，这个15到25磅啦等等啊。
Because no one knows the exact number.
因为没有人知道正确的这个数字啊。
But for some of you, I've written down lose. Listen to this.
那如果说你们当中有些人是在这边的话，
For some of you, I've written down lose 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 25. What does it mean? I didn't have the heart to say lose 105 pounds. It's just too overwhelming to a person.
我告诉您哈，我在你的纸张上面如果我有写说你必须要减轻20磅，再加上20磅，再加上20磅，再加上20磅，我写这么多20磅加上去呢？为什么我这样子写？因为我不好意思告诉你说你要一口气给我减掉100磅。
120 pounds, single mom, you know, I mean, I can't do any more, I'm working, I can't do it, and you give up.
我告诉你，因为我如果一下子写说你要给我瘦掉120磅，你会写说，哎呦，我要去工作，我没有这个时间，我没有办法能够把这个120磅给瘦下去。
I understand.
我明白的，
So I wrote down 20 pounds,
所以我知道说你一口气，你第一
Plus 20 pounds
你第一个目标先瘦20磅，
plus 20 pounds.
再瘦20磅，再瘦20
Take it
磅
in。smaller chunks or go, just aim for 2 pounds a week.
我告诉你，你先这样子吧，你先目标1个星期减轻2磅。
And if you have to lose 100 pounds, you can be in the next 52 weeks, you can lose that 100 pounds if you lose 2 pounds a week. And we'll help you with that.
我告
We're
诉你，
here to maintain the lifestyle that you're trying to begin starting up tomorrow.
然后呢，其实你可以下定目标，因为那你就可以在下一个52个星期当中，你可以瘦掉这个100磅啊。但你不要说不做，你现在就开始做嘛，这样子。
So, here's the final slide.
这个是今天的这个最后一个这个幻灯片哈。
Tomorrow,
明
2
天
to 3:45, how to reverse these diseases.
明天这个2点到3点45是讲说如何的逆转这些疾病更这个更具体的哈。
Today we talked about how to prevent these diseases. We talked about fork and knife, weapons of mass destruction.
今天我们讲的是这个叉子和刀子哈，这个致命的杀伤性武器如何的如何的预防这些疾病。
Next week I will talk to you about
下个星期我会跟你讲啊，
fork and knife,
也是讲
instruments of health, hope, and healing.
下一次呢，我要讲关于这个叉子和刀子，就是希望的跟治疗的一个盼望。
And Esther Lau, as a dietitian, will help you. She has about 40 minutes there to help you to do some cooking demonstration. Then at 4:30 to 5:15, then we have our special 2 friends coming in from out of town to help all of us to jump into this what we call cleansing diet plan.
然后明天健康讲座讲完之后呢，我们有这个王守美女士4点半到5点15分会跟各位做这个健康示范啊，3点50到4点半。然后呢，之后我们会有这个2位姐妹呢跟您讲说关于这个排毒，这都是明天的内容啊。
Purify the system.
如何的好像就是 亲近自己的身体里面的。
detoxify the system.
那他会教你怎么个做。
And don't forget to bring your folder tomorrow, right?
然后就是
And
明
your
天呢，
pen.
不要忘记带你的这个讲义夹来。
And if there are some friends missing today, be sure you give them a call because they missed today the clinical evaluation. I don't know how we get them.
那因为那个今天那
是的
个如果说有一些人没有来的话呢，请记得打电话给他们，希望他们能够来。
But every Saturday and Sunday, we're trying to build a castle of a power structure of knowledge, step by step by step. When you miss one, you're missing a very important room. You miss a foundational building block. So try to make it a point to be here Saturday and Sunday for the next 4 weeks. We look forward to seeing you
然后
tomorrow.
就是说，就是每一个星期二、星期六跟星期天下午2点啊，我们都有这些讲座。那么呢，你如果说希望能够把整个好像沙滩上面的一个城堡盖好的话呢，我是把一整个城堡要盖好一个基础，每一个星期都讲给您听，所以我希望你们不要错过，你要把这个盖好。所以我希望你每次都能够来。你们就是tell them that.
You have been sitting too long.
你已经坐了很久了。
You probably have to stand up tomorrow.
也许我们明天
Sometime.
是不是要就是站着来听啊？
And I want to thank the pastor here
我要谢谢这个教堂的牧师啊，
for all the translation services.
他做所有的这些翻译。
And I want to thank Terrence and his wife for all the work that they have done to get all these folders ready.
我们也感
And
谢
you
就
have some
是
handouts
郑
for
文
them,
峰
right?
长老，还有就是他的太太呢，给我们准备这么多这个讲义夹。
Okay, you saw the last 4 slides that Dr. Gill shared with you. Don't copy that. It's all I gave to you when you came in.
microphone.
Oh, where's the microphone? Sorry. I was saying that the last 4 slides that you were looking at, don't worry, I gave to you as you come in this afternoon.
就是说是那个最后这个4个就是那个这个电脑幻灯片呢，你在上面我们是那个没有看到的哈，我就已经是把它印出来给你了，所以每一个学员，每一个这个先生，每一位先生女士呢都有，我印给你的哈。
So they're all there, okay?
所以这些上面那个幻灯片呢，你刚才没有看到的是加上去的哈，是我后来就是有印给你的。
Now, for those of you who need to talk to Dr. Deal, Dr. Daniel Inyo, Dr. Shirley Tan, you can stay behind.
那么呢，就说是如果说您有这些自己的个人的健康问题，想跟那个医生商量呢，戴汉斯博士在这儿，还有这个我们的这个印尼来的杨医生他们也在这里
And then we also have Dr. Benjamin Lau here.
还有我们这边也有这个刘汉兴医学博士也在我们当中。
And for those of you who need to leave, please see me to exchange the documents.
另外就是我刚早点的时候跟您讲，就是我印那个黑白的这个文件给您呢，要换成彩色的，所以我会在门口，你可以来找我，我给您换成这个彩色的and also just want to let you know, in case some of your friends who would like to learn about this the health seminar, we have this one on YouTube, okay? 那么呢，整个这个健康讲座呢，如果您想回去再看，或者是给亲朋好友介绍呢，我们这些都有用那个 YouTube 全部都录制下来了哈。And also, I want to welcome you to come to join our church Saturday morning. 我要欢迎每一位来参加我们星期六早上的这个聚会哈。Every Saturday morning, we have our church service beginning from 11 o'clock. Okay? 我们希望您能够来参加我们教会的聚会哈。But if you can come early, starting from 10:45, and 10:50, we have this classical music, a prelude to begin with. You enjoy the music by the teenage, and you will come to listen to a good message, and we provide lunch for you. 所以每一个星期六早上，你10点45可以来，我们有美好的古典音乐开始。然后呢，我们聚会完毕之后呢，还有这个很好的午餐呢，我们都提供给您哈。欢迎您来参加我们教会的聚会。好，谢谢。